Chapter 181 Dinner. Because of Huayuan Ziwei and Huayuan Jiangqua's kindness to Bai Jin, no one at the banquet openly talked too much about this new family member. After all, Huayuan Jiangque no longer had a title to inherit, and it had no impact on anyone. Bai Jin's etiquette was very good, and he didn't look out of place even among a group of nobles. The atmosphere at the table was very harmonious, and everyone talked about mostly trivial issues. Some people became curious about Bai Jin, and asked some questions casually and politely. So you are a hero of the Battle of Hezhou. No wonder you are favored by Uncle Jiangque. Bai Jin's name is not on the list of martyrs. It cannot be said to be fabricated, but the identity is vague. Bai Jin was ashamed and said modestly, "It's not something that can be called a hero. I am just fulfilling my military duties. Humility is a courtesy, and it is normal." But just when Bai Jin said this, Her Highness the Princess suddenly put down the tableware heavily. Her face was ashen, and she looked extremely unhappy. Bai Jin looked over subconsciously, and then was shocked by her angry eyes, and his heart was beating wildly. Did he say something wrong? No. He didn't understand at all. The only thing that was clear was that he was completely hated by the prince. Mom? Hua Baiwang looked at his mother in confusion, and finally made Hua Mu realize his own loss of composure. I'm sorry. She showed a tired look. Apologetically. I'm not feeling well. I want to rest first. Hua Chui breathed a sigh of relief and said considerately, If you don't feel well, go and rest first. Huayuan Ziwei was a little nervous. Are you tired? Do you want to call a doctor? Hua Mu forced a smile and said, It's okay. Just rest for a night. Of course. The princess's health is more important. The queen and the host were so nervous, and the others also expressed their concern. Huayuan Jiangque was even more direct. Let his proud adopted daughter take on the responsibility of guarding. In that case, Bai Jin, you can see Mumu off. No need to be so troublesome. Hua Mu immediately refused. Didn't you give your personal guard a holiday? It's so unsafe on the road. Don't worry, Bai Jin is very reliable. Indeed, for the happiness of the two friends, and to prevent Bai Qin from seeing Bai Jin for the time being, Hua Mu gave her a holiday. We're only halfway through dinner, how can we do this? And the backup guards are also very reliable, there's really no need to bother, guard Bai. Huayuan Jiangque heard her refusal, but he didn't insist anymore, but Bai Jin suddenly stood up and said to Hua Mu, It's not a big deal, Your Highness, let me see you off. Hua Mu looked at her for a while, and then turned and left without saying a word. Bai Jin bowed to everyone and hurriedly chased after her. Come to think of it, does Bai Jin look a bit like Mumu's former bodyguard? Someone whispered. And someone recalled it a little. It was 6 years ago. Your Highness. Bai Jin was tall and had long legs, and she caught up with Hua Mu without any effort. Hua Mu seemed to want to completely ignore her, and walked away quickly. Bai Jin stopped talking, and just followed her silently. The floating car used by the princess paid more attention to safety and privacy than luxury. Bai Jin followed her into the car, and the back seat became a completely enclosed space for the two of them. The atmosphere became more awkward and heavy, and Bai Jin regretted his impulsiveness at this moment, knowing that the other party hated him, but still followed him. He would definitely be hated even more. So, if he wanted to apologize, this might be his last chance. Your Highness. Hua Mu was very upset. Her lover was a well-deserved hero. Why should he be denied by a fake? However, looking at the face that was exactly the same as Bai Jin's, she was completely sure that this was the answer her lover would give. She felt like she was going crazy. No matter how much she prepared herself, her emotions were still easily affected. Hua Mu didn't want to pay attention to her, and didn't even want to maintain the superficial politeness. Bai Jin looked at her side face, and her courage had mostly disappeared, probably due to nervousness. Her left arm began to ache slightly. Her memory of waking up was very bad, but now she could basically not recall anything except pain and coldness. Since her left arm was originally a mechanical prosthesis, it was not possible to transplant a bionic prosthesis when the body had not recovered. So the mechanical prosthesis was still installed. Logically speaking, mechanical prosthesis should not feel pain. In any case, it can be explained by PTSD, and she accepted it calmly. To be honest, she has been very calm about everything since she regained consciousness. Except for the recent treatment of the princess, Bai Jin vaguely felt that perhaps her past was related to this. If she does not apologize this time, she may never have another chance. Your Highness, if I have offended you in any way, I am sorry for this. She finally mustered up the courage to express her sincere apology to Hua Mu. Hua Mu's heart, which had been numb for many years, felt pain again. It's not because of this. You didn't offend me. Baizhen's expression relaxed, and he couldn't help showing a hint of joy. I just simply hate you. There is no other special reason. Yes, she hated this Baizhen. It made her feel pain again, made her understand her weakness again, repeatedly tempered her mind, made her hesitate and waver, and gave birth to hope. This was just a test from Hua Zheng, and it was a blasphemy against her and Baizhen. The hovercraft arrived at the gate of the palace very quickly. But Baizhen felt that a century had passed in silence. However, the atmosphere was so depressing, and she felt a faint pain in her heart. She could not help but pray that the road would be longer. After saying that, His Highness's expression was so sad that she did not even have time to feel sad for herself. Baizhen got out of the car, and seemed not to be shaken by Hua Mu's words just now. Your Highness, please take care of yourself. The car door closed silently, and Hua Mu finally couldn't help but cover her face and cried. It was painful enough to have experienced it once. Why should she go through it again? The new year of the empire has arrived. There are lively celebrations, holiday carnivals, and the much-anticipated civilian meetings. In addition to the queen, the princesses have also participated in the meetings in recent years. The appearance of the two little princes has attracted a lot of attention. And their appearance, which is very different from the traditional image of the royal family, has also caused a wide range of discussions. Because the characteristics are too obvious, many internet experts have begun to conduct lengthy research activities, and some of them sound quite reasonable. After the daytime celebration, there was a grand party hosted by the royal family, and some areas of the palace were open to the public. Of course, unlike the parties held by ordinary nobles, the security measures tonight were stricter, and every guest had to undergo a full-body security scan. As the de facto host, Hua Mu could not relax her vigilance for a moment, and even personally greeted the guests at the entrance of the hall. Hua Mu wore a burgundy dress, with a demure figure and platinum-colored long hair neatly tied behind her head, showing the intellectual elegance of a mature woman. Royal relatives, government officials, heads of major families. Remembering these people is just the basis for succession. She briefly greeted the guests, and assigned a waiter to lead the way. Just as Hua Mu finished receiving Shen Shiming and his family, there was a slight commotion at the security checkpoint outside the hall. She heard the sound of the security checkpoint alarm, although it stopped quickly, but it seemed that some guests were stopped by the guards. Security is the most important issue, and the guests invited to the evening are all distinguished guests. So in this case, it is natural to go and check it out in person. Sorry, I have to leave you first. Hua Mu handed the welcoming job to Hua Man and beside him for the time being, and walked to the security check. Bai Qin, who had been in the dark as a guard, rushed up very alertly. The person who was stopped was very surprising. The tall and beautiful woman wore a purple-black dress that she would never choose on ordinary days, and a fine velvet shawl of the same color outside the dress. The exposed slender neck was as graceful as a swan, and a valuable blue gem quietly fell between her two straight and flat collarbones. Long black hair like crow feathers, slightly dark delicate skin, a deep face like a sculpture, and eyes as black as ink make her look full of exotic mystery. Baizhen changed her usual simple and capable dress, and attracted countless eyes in just a few minutes of standing here. Sorry, it's my negligence. My left arm was injured before, so I temporarily replaced it with a mechanical prosthesis. This should have triggered the alarm. She looked very calm, just a little reserved. This reserve did not come from fear or panic, but because it was the first time she wore a dress since she could remember. The staff checked the ID and invitation letter. Their attitude was not offensive, but very cautious. Although the medical records are verified, we still have to conduct a more detailed examination. Don't worry. The physical examination will not take up too much of your time. I will arrange someone to lead you now. This is a very reasonable request, and Baizhen understands it very well, although he did not come to the party of his own will. It is too suspicious to retreat at this time. This is what I should do. I am very sorry that my mistake has caused you extra work. Immediately, a female staff member came up to lead Baizhen. But at this moment, someone who stopped for a while discovered the arrival of the princess. Your Highness, the people who stayed behind because of the unusual situation and Baizhen's appearance made way for the princess's arrival. The members of the guard group became nervous and tried to recall whether there was anything wrong with their handling just now. It has been more than 10 days since the family dinner that day, but Baizhen still feels inexplicably heartbroken when he thinks of that sentence now. No, the more urgent thing now is to leave the princess as soon as possible. Rather than saying that she doesn't want to be hated, she doesn't want to be an eyesore to the princess. Hua Mu stared at her intently, with bright green eyes. Chapter 182 Driving Irregularly. Your Highness, we are planning to take Ms. Baizhen for a checkup. Hua Mu's calm expression made the staff eager to explain to her. Is there a problem? No, this must be a question that is deliberately asked. When the princess came over, she clearly heard the conversation. Someone who witnessed the whole process secretly speculated on her intentions, and couldn't help but care about Baizhen. Such a beautiful and distinctive woman, who is she? Now we have to confirm the condition of Ms. Baizhen's left arm. It seems that the mechanical prosthesis has triggered an alarm. Hua Mu looked at Baizhen's arm. If I have to say, it is quite rude. Baizhen straightened her back and said in a calm voice. It was the injury I suffered before. I'm sorry, I didn't consider this and caused you trouble. Hua Mu didn't say anything, and stared at her left arm in silence. Seeing that she didn't stop him, the staff hurriedly tried to lead Baizhen to leave quietly. Baizhen felt uncomfortable being looked at by her. She had never regretted her broken arm, but for the first time she felt ashamed. She followed the staff and wanted to leave as soon as possible. But when she passed by Hua Mu, her arm was suddenly grabbed. She could have avoided it, but she forgot to react because of her surprise. Not only Baizhen, but the princess's behavior also made the people around her alert. However, it was not Baizhen's abnormal behavior, but the princess. How should she be alert? Your Highness? I'll take you to. What? Baizhen felt very hot, and the skin touched by Hua Mu's palm seemed to be burned. Fragmented images suddenly flashed through her mind, and she felt dizzy because of the excessive taboo. Know what was going on. No matter how much he admired the princess, it was too shameless to have such a thought. I mean, I'll take you for a checkup. Why? Baizhen felt incredible, and was very nervous. His Highness had clearly expressed his dislike for her, so why did he take the initiative to take her for a checkup? Did he want to warn her because of her rudeness? Or did he notice her improper thoughts? No, she didn't have any improper thoughts. Baizhen dared to swear on his life. I have never thought of such dirty and vulgar things with the princess. Only just now. Only the picture that suddenly appeared just now. No, I'm sorry. It's still appearing now, as if someone is stuffing restricted pictures into her mind. Her heartbeat inevitably accelerated, and her body temperature seemed to rise. Not only was the place that was touched very hot, her whole body began to sweat. That's too much trouble for you. More importantly, please let go of your hand first. She was almost unable to bear this sudden close contact. This is my duty. I'll take you there. Hua Mu didn't let go. Instead, she pulled Baizhen forcefully towards the lounge. The staff wanted to remind her that the medical examination was not in that direction, but chose to shut up when they saw her expression. That expression was no longer scary. If she disturbed her, she might be killed. But this situation was really weird. She was a guest who had to be re-examined because she failed the security check. But she was taken away by one of the most important members of the royal family. Baizhen was so nervous that she could hardly breathe. The pain in her stomach reached the same level as her left arm. The mysterious information that continued to flow into her mind tortured her in another way, making her almost faint with shame. As an adult woman, it is certainly not strange to have such thoughts occasionally. But now, regardless of the time, place, or people, it should not cause such a situation. In the end, is this really her own idea? Baizhen always felt. No, this kind of thought is even more excessive. How could Her Highness, such an elegant and noble woman, who has clearly expressed her disgust for her, have such thoughts? Besides, they are not sentinels and guides who have been combined, and it is impossible for them to feel each other's will. Your Highness. Baizhen thought it would be better for her to leave. Perhaps His Highness just wanted her to do this. Speaking of which who had been clearly disliked, appeared again in broad daylight. In the eyes of the princess, I must have been very tactless. Right? I suddenly remembered that there were some things I had to deal with. I had to miss the party. So the inspection. What do you want? Hua Mu walked ahead with his head down, his steps hurried. Yes, it's work. It's vacation now. It's more urgent. Where can the emergency department have urgent matters at this time? No, Baizhen didn't seem to be good at lying. He hesitated for a long time, but couldn't make up a lie. During this time, she had been taken to her own private lounge by Hua Mu, and heard the sound of the electronic lock falling. This place didn't look like a physical examination room at all. There were no examination instruments. So, was she going to be interrogated? Baizhen was pushed down on the sofa. Your Highness. No matter how you look at it, something is wrong. Should this situation be considered a trusted person or a guarded person? Why would Your Highness be in the same room with a suspect and a hated person? After all, in terms of force alone, she has the upper hand. Take off your clothes. Hua Mu looked down at her, his expression stern. Baizhen couldn't tell whether Hua Mu was humiliating her or doubting her, and could only look back at him without saying a word. Then she found that the embarrassing scenes in her mind stopped at the moment when the princess let go of her hand. Did she really have such a dirty thought about her? In this way, it was not unfair to be hated. Take off your clothes. The princess seemed to see that she didn't move, and repeated it with a frown. Baizhen sighed silently, and resigned herself to untying the fine velvet shawl outside. The black and purple long skirt was not only designed to be off-shoulder, but also to show the entire back. The female guard turned her back slightly, and even lifted her shoulder-length hair. Her shoulders, arms, waist and back, which combined softness and strength, were revealed to Hua Mu without warning. Your Highness, is this okay? Baizhen showed himself to her to let her know that he did not bring any dangerous items. But Hua Mu looked at her motionlessly, as if he was shocked. Your Highness? What exactly is the princess planning? Baizhen couldn't figure it out. She had been tense and stern since the first time they met, and he obviously disliked her for no reason, so why was she looking at her like that now? But wasn't it also very confusing for me? I had only met Your Highness a few times, but I had such a ridiculous and unreasonable idea. The fair and slender fingers suddenly touched the guard's back, forming a strong contrast with the wheat-colored skin. Baizhen trembled involuntarily, and heard Hua Mu's hoarse voice in his ears. You don't remember the past? Baizhen had never mentioned this to Hua Mu, but if she really wanted to know, it would not be difficult for the princess. But why did the princess want to investigate such a thing? It is said to be post-traumatic stress syndrome. Arm. Is the left arm a mechanical prosthesis? It seems to have been injured in the war. The slightly cool fingertips gently stroked the skin, more like teasing than probing. Baizhen couldn't stand it any longer, and shrank back to avoid Hua Mu's touch. However, the princess knelt on the edge of the sofa, and touched her arm in an extremely intimate manner. When did you wake up? Baizhen noticed Hua Mu's shaky posture, and subconsciously supported her body, but wanted to avoid it when he realized that he had crossed the line. Don't move. It was an imperative tone. A tough tone. The tone of a superior. And Baizhen saw her face clearly. It was a fragile and helpless look, a gaze full of sadness and longing, a fragile and trembling voice. Is that so? I didn't care about her for no reason, but because I saw the crying under the stubborn indifference. Baizhen stopped all resistance caused by discomfort, and said obediently and honestly. Half a year ago. Hua Mu took a deep breath. Why did you come to the capital now? There is no special reason. I was doing rehabilitation before, and I was invited by the leader after I got better. Is it an interrogation? Then why do you want to interrogate in this situation? Why use this posture, and why use this expression? Baizhen didn't dare to meet Hua Mu's eyes, but couldn't help wanting to look, or rather admire the charming demeanor of Her Highness the Princess. Was it joy and excitement? Or sadness and pain? Her expression didn't change much, and it was calm, but it made people feel strong emotions. It was beautiful and real, and more touching than that decent smile. But it was too close. And why was it getting closer and closer? Your Highness? When Baizhen noticed it, the soft cherry lips were only a few centimeters away from her. Not only that, the princess's slender and frail body had almost completely leaned on her arms. The platinum-colored, long, thick eyelashes seemed to be filled with crystal tears, fluttering with the slightly closed eyelids. Baizhen's mind was in a mess. All kinds of thoughts and emotions rushed to her with strong impulses. No matter how slow she was, she should have noticed at this time that the princess was indeed teasing her. But why? Not to mention that they had only met a few times. Why would His Highness, who had clearly said not long ago that he hated her, suddenly do this? If it was for fun, wasn't the previous things too much? Moreover, Baizhen didn't think she was that attractive to come and have fun with her at this critical moment. More importantly, she had clearly done nothing. She was hated for doing nothing, and teased for doing nothing. Isn't this very strange? How did His Highness see her? Hate? Like? Or was there some other deeper cause and effect? Chapter 183 2 Lines of Tears for Loved Ones. It was Baijin. It was Baijin. She should have known it earlier. She should have recognized it earlier. This is Baijin. This is her lover. The wound on his back near the heart is a medal left when he protected her. This is evidence that even a clone cannot fake. Why did he recognize her only now? Why was he so cold to her? He even said something like he hated her. It was obviously Baijin who came back. I thought it was a luxury that would never appear in a dream. I thought it was a luxury that would never be realized in my lifetime. But he treated her like this after she came back. It doesn't matter if she doesn't remember, as long as she remembers. Baijin is Baijin anyway. She is the one she loves. Baijin. Don't wait any longer. She has waited for 5 years, and thought she would have to wait for a lifetime. At this moment, she doesn't want to worry about anything anymore, just want to hug her tightly, just want to confirm her. This is Baijin. The young female guard almost fainted because of the princess's charming and soft voice, and a heartbeat that was almost itchy. Painful and astringent arose in her chest. She knew that, as long as she didn't think about anything, and hugged him tightly at this moment, the scene in her mind would become a reality. Is this what she longed for? Under unclear circumstances, she had an irreversible relationship with the princess. The sweet lips, wet and bitter with tears, gently touched Baijin's lips. No, it was not like that. She did care. Or maybe she had already fallen in love with this somewhat cold and stubborn princess. But she never thought that this would happen to her under such circumstances. She hoped that the deep sorrow buried deep in the prince's heart could be resolved, that her smile could be genuine, and that she could protect her. Of course, it was not that she did not want to do such a thing, but it was not the right time to do so. Before that, there were more important things to do. For example, to get to know each other better, to communicate feelings step by step, or to start by holding hands. If the prince knew something about her past, the two of them might be able to have a deeper conversation. In short, isn't this too fast? Your Highness. Baijin's face flushed, but he gently and firmly pushed away Hua Mu's thin and trembling body. We shouldn't do this. Ah. He rejected her again. Baijin always rejects her. Never changes. Hua Mu slightly opened her misty eyes, looking at Baijin with a complaining and dissatisfied look. She knew that she should explain it. After all, Baijin didn't remember those things, and it was really a bit too much to ask her to accept close contact with someone who said he hated her. But this explanation is too troublesome. It will definitely take a lot of time, and she has clearly waited for 5 years. If it is still Baijin, can't he first understand her hunger, longing? Hua Mu finally calmed down a little. Do you hate me? First of all, she still had to confirm Baijin's feelings. It is impossible that he doesn't like her. Right? Baijin took a breath. His Highness looked at her with his gem-like green and clear eyes, like a child asking for love. Although she had such a mature and intellectual image, there was no sense of disobedience in such an expression. She felt that if she said she hated him, she would cry immediately. Of course, she would never say she hated him. That was impossible. Although she felt a little sad when His Highness said he hated her in front of her. She had never had such a thought. No such thing. How could I hate you? Baijin leaned back on the sofa, trying his best to avoid physical contact with Hua Mu. But Hua Mu leaned over and leaned closer in a closer posture. Is that love? Is this a test? Or a test? Should I say love or some other feeling? Baijin found himself sweating, looking away nervously. He said, I respect you very much. I am not your teacher or elder. Why do I need your respect? Hua Mu didn't want to hear such an answer. She hoped that Baijin would not forget his feelings for her, even if he lost his memory. But you clearly said you hated me, why? There was such a thing, but that was not said to Baijin. It was troublesome to explain it anyway. Hua Mu decided to take a quicker approach. Baijin opened her eyes wide. The strong touch on her lips made her feel as if her heart was being tightly grasped. The senses of the guard were also very sharp, for this kind of contact that should have been unfamiliar, but had a hint of familiarity. Baijin's only reaction was a blank mind. Hua Mu did not give her time to react and think, and invaded further inside, feeling the moist and soft tip of the tongue sliding across her mouth. Baijin almost felt dizzy from the sweet taste. She was being kissed by His Highness, so she must not be hated. Right? Baizhen only felt her waist go weak, and she leaned on the sofa completely powerless. Hua Mu no longer wanted to care about anything. For her, nothing was more important than kissing Baizhen. Baizhen. She stopped panting until she had difficulty breathing, until her mouth was full of saliva. Your Highness. Her slender white fingertips shuttled through the thick black hair, gently and affectionately soothing Baizhen's numb scalp, and then stroked along the cheek to the clear jawline, as if to confirm her existence. Hua Mu knelt straight and held her head tightly against his chest. The love-like caress made Baizhen's heart soar and his eyes hot. Doubts, confusion, and a little bit of grievance seemed no longer important. I don't hate you. I won't hate you. The joy of regaining what was lost overlapped with the 4 years of long years. It was absolutely unnecessary to say one thing and mean another. She wanted Baizhen to know that she loved her, and it would not change even after she died. Baizhen. Before she finished her words, the two people's light computer communication rang at the same time. Baizhen subconsciously glanced at the light brain, and when he saw that the caller was the leader, he hurriedly answered the call. Leader. When Hua Mu heard these 4 words, all the happiness, joy, and emotions were replaced by a belly full of anger. Looking at the caller displayed in her light brain again, the anger suddenly became the square of anger. Where are you? The leader's calm voice came from the light brain. Baizhen glanced at Hua Mu nervously and said honestly, I am with Her Highness the Princess. Oh, did I disturb you? Baizhen blushed because of the other party's words. No. Yes, I disturbed us. Very disturbing. Hua Mu was almost mad, which was even more excessive than using a clone to test her. Hua Zheng actually resurrected Baizhen, but kept her in the dark. What right did she have to do this? She made her struggle and suffer, endure hesitation. She didn't welcome Baizhen at the first time. She said such sad words to Baizhen. The leader didn't seem to hear her anger, and said calmly, Sweetheart, you should answer your mother's communication request. She is very anxious. Shouldn't you explain it? The facts are as you see. Then what do I see every day? What do I see? It's just a video played in a loop for 24 hours. It's very simple. Don't say it so calmly. It seems that you don't know where you are wrong. Too much, even if there is no emotion. It is too much. Why did you lie to me? Shouldn't I know about this first? What is your purpose? Toy with me? Are you happy to see me sad? Baizhen listened to the explosive conversation between the two. Although it was just a one-sided provocation from the princess, he couldn't help but feel a little worried. Your Highness. Hua Mu glanced at Baizhen. Let her shut up. The leader was silent for a while. There is no purpose, just let it go. I did this alone, and your mother didn't know about it. After all, she loves you so much. If she knew, she would definitely tell you. So why did you have to hide it from me? Is it a test? To test whether I am qualified to be the heir, or whether I can recognize Baizhen? No, I said, I just let it go. It's so annoying. Why do I always feel so powerless when talking to Minyan now? I didn't feel this way when I was a child. Hua Mu was so angry that she turned off Baizhen's phone, showing the mentality of a child after 5 years. Your Highness. Baizhen nervously wanted to call back, but Hua Mu held her hand. Don't pay attention to her. At least don't pay attention to her now. Baizhen looked at her worriedly. Are you okay? The experience just now was too exciting for her. But Hua Mu's situation made her even more worried. Hua Mu looked at the concern in Baizhen's dark eyes, and smiled unconsciously. I'm fine. Although she was really angry. But because the joy of Baizhen's return was so great, her whole life suddenly became bright. So even these anger became insignificant. Then your communicator. Hua Mu glanced at the caller on the display, and remembered what Hua Zheng had just said. Finally, she answered the phone reluctantly. Mom. Mu. Where are you? The queen's voice was gentle and caring, and she sounded a little anxious. With Baizhen. There was silence for a moment, and she hesitated. Did I disturb you? Hua Mu felt that the two of them were asking questions knowing the answer. She took Baizhen away, and she would know the answer with just a little question. Knowing that he had sent a communication request, this must be intentional. No. The party is about to start. You should go to the party first. Hua Mu glanced at Baizhen, who was disheveled and charming because of what she had done just now, and barely maintained her sanity. I know. She accepted her fate. After all, there are still many things to be solved, and after many years, the first time should be more romantic and beautiful. Chapter 184 Confrontation. When the long-lost princess reappeared, she was accompanied by a tall woman. The princess held her arm, and the two looked very close. Baizhen always felt that she should feel nervous in the public eye, but her heart was unusually calm. She had many questions, but looking at the princess's face, she felt that there was really no need to rush. The two entered the backstage unimpeded. Her Majesty the Queen's speech had ended, and then it was the princess's stage. Although Hua Mu was impacted by the white pillow, but I think about this kind of thing. In addition, the preparation was very sufficient. I didn't feel the slightest nervous. The flower cluster returns to the background. What I saw was the picture of her daughter tightly sticking to the white pillow. His Majesty. White pillow respects her respectfully. The flowers nodded. To Hua Mu Dao. Mu Mu. You go. Although Hua Mu is unwilling to leave the white pillow. In the end, understanding is urgent. I see. She turned around, and the silk shawl replaced by the whole white pillow. Instructed. Don't go messy. Don't go messy. Just wait for me to come back, even if the heat is not allowed to take off. I will make things clear in the evening. After all, the white pillow felt a little uncomfortable after all. I see. Hua Mu kissed her, and the latter model came to power. Baizhen didn't know how to react when he suddenly found himself alone with His Majesty in this situation. He could only stand stiffly with the upright posture that is unique to soldiers. Baizhen, did Mumu say anything to you? Hua Chu walked to her side and took the initiative to break the silence. The reactions of the princess and the queen made Baizhen realize that the only possibility of all this was related to her past. Your Highness hasn't said anything yet. Curious? Baizhen nodded. I have a lot of doubts. Do you like Mumu? Facing the question from the mother of the person he loves. The guard blushed completely. But she didn't want to go against her heart. And she didn't want to lie to the queen. I admire your Highness very much. She makes me feel a kind of nostalgic. Don't you have any memory of the past? Baizhen was not unwilling to understand her past, especially after coming to the imperial capital. All kinds of signs made her realize that her past experiences might be much more complicated than what she heard. But facing the past, it also takes some courage. Yeah. Do you remember how you woke up? Only a very vague impression. What did the leader say to you? Facing the queen's questioning, Baizhen did not hide anything. The leader invited me to the capital, saying, let me make my own choice. You followed her without explaining anything? Do you trust her so much? Yes, the leader never explained anything to her, but she didn't know why she trusted him so much. I believe in the leader. Hua Chu half closed her eyelids, with a hint of sarcasm and confusion. It's really strange, even if you have lost your memory. You trust her so much, why can't I do it? Hua Mu shortened her speech, and hurried back to the backstage to meet Baizhen, but saw Hua Chu standing with her. The atmosphere was very silent. Mom, she called Hua Chu, and then took Baizhen's hand impatiently. Can I take her away first? Hua Chu forced a smile. Wait for the leader to come, and we'll talk. You don't want to be with her without knowing the reason. Although Hua Mu was a little dissatisfied, he also felt that his mother was right. Mian was too hateful. If she didn't criticize him now, when would she? Okay. But Baizhen has to go back with me tonight. This sentence was not even an invitation, but a naked indication. Baizhen didn't know whether to refuse or accept. No, I have to refuse. Right? Hua Chu didn't seem to have any opinion. This doesn't require my consent. But you have to ask Baizhen's opinion. Right? The conversation between the mother and daughter was interrupted by a dull voice that seemed to be without any emotion. The faceless man didn't wear a cloak at night. The slim-fitting uniform completely outlined the slenderness of his figure. Leader. Baizhen hurriedly greeted her. The faceless man looked at her. I thought you were going somewhere. There was an emergency in the response department. Derek has rushed to deal with it. Do you want to go or stay? Baizhen finally knew why she contacted him before, and said without hesitation. What is it? I will go there immediately. We found a gang that took advantage of the chaos to smuggle suppression equipment on the 325 fast lane in the east of the imperial capital. The suppression equipment is a new equipment developed by NITA 2 years ago, and is currently basically only provided to the response department. The nature of this smuggling can be big or small for the response department, so the director also went to deal with it personally. I'll do it right away. Don't go. Hua Mu tightly grasped Baizhen's arm. The intensity of the reaction far exceeded Hua Chu's expectations. Your Highness? Baizhen was very anxious. It was too late to receive the notice now. This is my duty. It doesn't sound like a big deal. Small smuggling cases are basically not life-threatening, and ordinary police can handle it well. But this incident is directly related to the response department, which is her duty, and has nothing to do with the size of the case. You're not allowed to go. Hua Mu didn't listen to her explanation at all. He held her arm like a rogue and shook his head desperately. You're not allowed to go. Bai Jin. You're not allowed to go. Bai Jin was just surprised. Hua Chu was more worried than surprised. Moo moo. This was obviously not a simple rebellious emotion caused by separation from Bai Jin, but clearly because of fear. Hua Chu finally realized that there was more than one person with post-traumatic stress disorder here. Did A Zheng have expected this situation? She turned her head to look at the faceless man. The masked face naturally showed no emotions. Your Highness. Bai Jin was anxious about the task, and was also worried about Hua Mu's reaction. As a result, he got excited and said, I will come back. After I finish the matter. I will. She just thought that Hua Mu had such a reaction because she was leaving, and she didn't care about the identities of the two people present, and said such a bold statement. You are lying. Hua Mu knew that. Bai Jin was lying to herself. Talking about duties, responsibilities and obligations, and tasks that must be performed. It was like this in the past. And it is still like this now. What should we do? Bai Jin? Hua Zheng seemed not to see Hua Mu's intense reaction, and only said to Bai Jin, is it to carry out the mission or is this the choice the leader mentioned? Bai Jin looked at Hua Mu, who was holding her in his arms, and was very excited, and finally made up his mind. I will go, but I want to talk to His Highness first. The faceless man held the hand of the queen, who was not sure what she was thinking, and said to Hua Mu, Sweetheart, your mother, and I will wait for you in the lounge. Sweetheart, sweetheart, not sweet at all, her heart was already full of bitterness and scars. Your Highness. Your Highness. Bai Jin hugged Hua Mu gently after the two left, and tried to comfort her based on his intuition. Your Highness. Are you worried about me? It's okay. This is not a dangerous mission. Why do you have to go? Now even Hattie is gone. Why do you have to take risks? Hattie. But it's really not dangerous. And it's within my ability. Your Highness. I'm a member of the response department. And I'm also a soldier. There's no reason not to perform my mission. Hua Mu looked at her with tears in her eyes. And there was fear and panic on her face that was hard to hide. What if I don't let you go? Bai Jin was stunned for a moment, looking at her face, and fell into deep thought. Before coming to the capital, she only knew that she had been a soldier. After going to Nita, she began to deeply appreciate the atmosphere, as well as the honor and responsibility imposed on her. Whether in the response department or with other colleagues in Nita, she felt relaxed and comfortable, as if she was back home. Finding what she wanted to do made Bai Jin not regret coming to the capital at all. This might be the life she should have. As for meeting Hua Mu, it was more like a surprise, an unexpected joy that shook her soul. Then what's the value of my life? Bai Jin's deep and bright black pupils stared deeply into her eyes, making Hua Mu feel as if she would be sucked into them. She didn't need Bai Jin to be great. She didn't need her to make any achievements, as long as she could live. That was enough. As long as Bai Jin could live, that was her. No, that was her value and meaning to herself. Hua Mu sobbed, and suddenly vaguely realized Hua Jing's intention. She had become someone who would tie her lover with both hands. Bai Jin was bewitched by her miserable expression, and lowered his head to kiss her tearful eyes. It's okay. Your Highness. I'll be back soon. We can exchange communication codes. You can contact me at any time. I'll be back before the party ends. Hua Mu finally hugged her, and nodded with sobs. Hua Jing's fingers were cold. But Hua Chu was no better than her this time. She had been guessing Hua Jing's intentions, and had been thinking about why she did this without telling her. But there was only one answer she could come up with. She's not Bai Jin. Right? Not the dead Bai Jin. Bai Jin has no memory, which is easy to understand, because the state of the body at that time could not use the memory ball technology to extract the memory. As for the scars on the body, Hua Zheng knew Bai Jin very well, and it was not difficult to forge them. Hua Zheng used such a tortuous and elaborate way to make Bai Jin appear in front of Mu Mu, just to let her discover it herself, and let her believe that this Bai Jin is her lover. This is also the reason why Hua Zheng refused to tell me. Because I have clearly and publicly opposed this technology. In order to make Mu Mu believe. The best way is to let her doubt first. Otherwise the situation will be just the opposite. Hua Zheng smiled, pretending to be surprised, and said, Your Majesty, How can you have such an idea? Could it be that the little sweetheart would mistake her lover? Hua Chu shook her hand away. Moo Moo will not admit her mistake. But if you want her to admit her mistake, no one can escape Hua Jing's trap. Chapter 185 Confrontation. So, can you tell me, what is the purpose of my doing this? Hua Zheng did not feel that she was being questioned at all, but her voice showed an interest. Of course. It was to let Moo Moo. Hua Chu suddenly stopped talking. She found the contradiction in her thinking logic. Creating a clone might be excusable, but creating scars on him was too cold-blooded. She thought in this way, and subconsciously regarded Hua Zheng as a rational criminal without emotions. But what is the purpose? If all this is done for Hua Mu, it is not only humane, but also extremely cruel. Baizhen is Hua Jing's apprentice, and he died to save her. He would never be treated like this. Hua Zheng is very rational, and has a lot of bad intentions, but she is not a pervert, at least not in this aspect. Hua Zheng shook her head regretfully. No, I guessed it wrong. Then why? Why, sweetheart is here, you can ask together. Hua Mu appeared at the door of the lounge after she said this. Her crying face was still a little embarrassed. As soon as she entered the door, she stared at the faceless face, in other masks, crying. Face. Why? Alright. It's better to sit down and say. Hua Zheng patted his hands, asked very considerate. Need to drink tea? Hua Zheng. The flower cluster is unbearable. Well, I see. Will you tell everything? First, what do you want to know? Why not tell me? Why is there obviously the method of resurrected white pillows? Obviously woke up for half a year, but tell me nothing? Although the flower cluster wants to ask whether this white pillow is true, but since Hua Mu is so affirmative, no matter which aspect, she should not increase her doubt. This is also a terrible place for Hua Zheng. You have to be her accomplice. Sweetheart, you should know that this is not done for you. I just can't give up such an excellent person as Baizhen. She is the best successor to the leader. This is why Hua Yuan Jiang adopted her as his daughter and let her return to the imperial capital. It's not done for her, so there is no need to let her know, or even explain to her. Is that what you mean? Hua Mu was already too angry to say anything. But she is my partner, my lover. And you are? You are my mother. Isn't this enough? Just based on this, I should know the truth of the matter. Seeing her daughter emotional, Hua Chu was very worried that Hua Zheng would say something like, I don't hear any cause and effect relationship here. Unexpectedly, Hua Zheng was silent for a while, and said in a voice that could not be any lower. That's why. Hua Mu was crying so hard that she did not hear Hua Ding's words. Hua Chu suddenly felt sad. What is this? What is this feeling? A Zheng? The faceless man suddenly raised his voice. Maybe you're right. But Baizhen is my apprentice and my successor. It is my decision to bring her back, whether you agree or not. Of course, I have no right to interfere with what happens after she comes back. In the eyes of Hua Chu and Hua Mu, Baizhen is indeed resurrected from the dead, but Hua Zheng has never used this term. So what method did you use to revive Baizhen? Why doesn't she remember the past? Don't talk about PTSD. How could she forget everything in the past? Hua Chu's suspicions all came from this. Resurrection. How is such a thing possible? If there is such technology, it's not too much to call yourself a god. Right? Then what is Baizhen? Because Baizhen is not dead at all, that state is more like hibernation. The earliest hibernation technology is based on the principle of low temperature, which is similar to that situation. But I clearly felt that Baizhen, she, disappeared. Even at this moment, Hua Mu felt like falling into the abyss when he thought of that feeling. No. It was Luna who made you feel it. But it felt that way only because Hattie disappeared. Not because of Baizhen's death. After all, sentinels and guides without spirit bodies are not much different from ordinary people. So how could they really have telepathy? Yes, Luna disappeared with Hattie, and Hua Mu could no longer summon it after that. Will Baizhen recover? Can our spirit bodies come back? I can't tell you about this. It's not resurrection, but not death at all. Baizhen just fell asleep. This thought has reduced Hua Mu's pain a lot. She no longer forced a better result, and confirmed again. So Baizhen is really back? The leader shrugged. If you don't care about her having no memory, she is really back. It's a lie to say that he doesn't care, but as long as Baizhen can come back, it doesn't matter, nothing matters. So why did she lose her memory? Only Hua Chu kept pursuing this. Hua Zheng did not hide anything. Of course, I asked someone for help. For a sentinel, being near death is a very dangerous experience. This is why almost all sentinels who survived a serious injury would lose their memories of that period, or lose their spiritual bodies. This is the body's self-protection mechanism. The sentinels who couldn't do it are dead. But Bai Zhen's situation is different. When she was brought back, she still had all her memories, and she was almost always on the verge of life and death. So I asked a guide to help, and temporarily blocked her memory. Hua Chu heard the word, bring back, for the second time. How did you bring back Bai Zhen? If you want to bring back the sentinel who fell into the eternal night, then of course there is only one way to get to the other party's mental picture. But even if the combined guide does this, the success rate is extremely low, not to mention other guides. As for the sentinel, it is unheard of. Of course, if it is Hua Zheng, it is not surprising that he can do it, but is this important? Maybe it is not important to Hua Zheng, but to her, to Hua Chu. This matter is very important. As for the result, Bai Zhen is back. So, now is the time to choose. Seeing you just now, I finally believe that love can conquer everything. The leader laughed softly, as if he was amused by saying the word. Love. You can tell her about your affairs in person, and I will never interfere. But sweetheart, is that reaction really okay? Can you tolerate it once? And can you tolerate it forever? And there is a great possibility that Bai Zhen will become the leader. Are you willing to keep worrying or let her give up her value? It is a simple thing to transfer her to be your guard. But as your guard, she must have encountered many dangers. Hua Mu understood that Bai Zhen was a very responsible person. Whether it was protecting her, saving the leader, or sacrificing herself to save everyone, it was because in her heart, it was her responsibility. Even if she was transferred to be her bodyguard, she would definitely hinder Bai Zhen's work like a frightened bird. If Bai Zhen had just woken up and was as blank as a piece of paper, she might have used all means to control her so that she could not leave her. Hua Zheng probably saw through this, so she kept it from her. I will handle the next thing myself. How annoying. Hua Mu obviously thought that would be good. But now, this is a difficult problem in front of her. She really needs to think carefully and find the best solution. Mu. Hua Chu saw Hua Mu was about to leave, and called her with some concern. Hua Mu smiled at her. I'm fine. Just going to contact Bai Zhen. Compared to herself, it is more terrible to have a mother with such a lover. She glanced at Hua Zheng, and said meaningfully, you two should still have something to talk about. I'm leaving first. Hua Zheng did not stop her, and looked like she was going to leave with him. Stop. Hua Zheng stopped. What does your majesty want? Hua Chu walked up to her and asked aggressively. How did you bring Bai Zhen back? What about the successor? It's obviously not the time to consider the next successor. Theoretically, Hua Zheng will live longer than anyone else. What's the point of considering the successor now? Hua Zheng seemed to suddenly remember and said, I almost forgot to say that Jin Shen's pursuit efficiency is too low. So I plan to track down the whereabouts of Origin Gamma myself. But it is really unreasonable for the leader to be away for a long time, so... Hua Chu looked at her in disbelief. Such a big thing, have you never thought of discussing it with me? Are you worried about Bai Zhen? She will recover sooner or later, after all. My little sweetheart. You know that's not what I mean. Hua Chu reached out to take off the other's mask, and said angrily. Enough? Hua Zheng, how else are you going to torture me? Hua Zheng seemed to want to stop it, but stopped. Hua Chu took off the white mask easily, and the long hair and pupils that were no longer covered immediately returned to their original appearance. Hua Zheng frowned, and did not look directly into Hua Chu's eyes. Your Majesty? Hua Zheng, do you really want to leave? You let Bai Zhen make a choice. Is it because you think of yourself? I can't say that I don't have such an idea. If I also have the right to choose. Hua Chu threw the mask hard on her chest. Her face was full of tears. Go away. Even without you. No. It is precisely because of you that I will live a better life. Hua Zheng bowed. I am glad to hear you say that. But I will be in your eyes for a short time. After all, this is not a trivial matter. Hua Chu only hated that she didn't have a whip in her hand. Hua Zheng always had the ability to make her angry. She was so angry that she didn't care whether her strength could move the other party or not. She pushed Hua Zheng to vent her anger. Go to hell. The slender but powerful female sentinel unexpectedly bumped into the wall behind her because of her push. Her feet swayed a few times, and she fell to the ground in a mess. Hua Chu was stunned. She looked at her hand in disbelief, and then looked at Hua Zheng, who was covering her mouth. She heard the other party coughing, and then bright red blood dripped from the pale fingers. Chapter 186. It is natural to take care of your partner. Baizhen didn't come back that night. It wasn't that she broke her promise. Hua Mu told her not to come back. The work after the new year was not easy. Baizhen started to investigate the smuggling case, while Hua Mu was very busy because he had to handle some government affairs on behalf of Hua Siyu. But the two kept in touch, and knew each other's situation. Hua Mu didn't really have no time to see Baizhen. She was just afraid that she would lose control again. Rather, in fact, she was on the verge of losing control every moment. She wanted to see Baizhen, wanted to keep Baizhen by her side, wanted to lock her up in a safe place, and she suddenly began to deeply understand Baizhen's feelings at the time. The only solution Hua Mu could think of was, see a doctor. As a guide who had lost her partner, seeing a psychologist was commonplace. It was just that she had always been resistant before, but now she became active. The case that Baizhen was in charge of soon made progress. The problem was not in the response department, but in the development team, although it was an equally serious situation for Ta, but in the end, the suspicion of the department was cleared, which made her feel a little relieved. The busy schedule came to an end. An operation was also put on the schedule. The medical examination report had allowed Baizhen to undergo the transplant of bionic prosthesis. After Hua Mu knew about this, he could no longer take care of his own problems. He rushed to Neda the day before the operation. The arrival of the princess was a big deal. Even if it was just a private act, it was enough to cause a commotion. But almost everyone knew why she came, and they took the initiative to provide her with clues. After a month of training, Baizhen's bionic prosthesis had been fully adjusted. Shinshurho was in charge of the operation himself, which showed how much the higher-ups valued the matter. She had been very busy recently, and she was worried about the health of the royal family members. After the operation, stay in the hospital for a week for observation. If there is no rejection reaction or functional impairment, you can be discharged. Shinshurho explained the process to Baizhen, and handed her the input screen. If there is no problem, sign here and enter your fingerprint. It is normal to have difficulty in moving for the first 2 days. You can choose your family. Well, we can also arrange for care. Just check the care option. All expenses of the inner tower members in the tower's medical facilities are borne by the tower. And Baizhen surgery this time is no exception. For a relatively large operation, where the patient cannot be discharged on the same day, the patient is usually accompanied by family members. This is a rare opportunity for non-inner tower personnel to enter the tower. Baizhen took a quick look at the consent form, checked the options of care and rapid rehabilitation, and was about to sign, when a bell rang outside the door. There are only a handful of people who can enter Shinshurho's consultation room, and those who can ring the doorbell during her consultation are most likely members of the royal family. Combined with the current situation, there is no need to think about who it could be. Come in. It is always good to come in pairs. She comforted herself like this, and showed a friendly smile to Hua Mu. Mu, why are you here? Baizhen reacted quickly, standing up and greeting Hua Mu. Your Highness. Hua Mu ignored Shinshurho, who was asking knowingly, and smiled at Baizhen. Why didn't you tell me earlier that you were going to have surgery tomorrow? I almost didn't make it. The scene of that night was still vivid in his mind. Baizhen was dizzy at the time, and didn't have time to think about it. When he saw Hua Mu today, those hot memories came to his mind again. It's just a minor surgery. Baizhen blushed and tried not to recall the scene at that time. She didn't dare to meet his eyes. Minor surgery is only for those who can be discharged on the same day. You? Hua Mu reached out and touched her left arm. It's not considered a minor surgery. Shinshurho looked at the princess, who was more daring than 5 years ago. She was very glad that she didn't drink water. Although she had not concealed her relationship with Baizhen before, she and Baizhen were in tune with each other at that time. But Shinshurho was clearly told that Baizhen had lost her memory. She was not only bold in her intimate behavior, but also showed great courage, or it would be more appropriate to say that she had completely let go of her shame. Ah, the princess of the empire seduced the sergeant nakedly. This is really too much material for erotic novels. Baizhen was numb from Hua Mu's touch. Realizing that Shinshurho was at the scene, she said nervously. The tower will help arrange care. There will be no inconvenience. Let's not talk about the past for now. Just say that if the prince and I have something to say now, it will definitely cause a bad reputation for her. Don't arrange for care. Hua Mu knew that. Even now there are many people who covet Baizhen. I will come over in the next few days. How can this be possible? Why not? The princess frowned and looked at him. With a look of majesty. Baizhen couldn't answer for a while. Shinshir clapped his hands when it was appropriate. Okay. It's natural for Moo Moo to take care of her. I just thought she was too busy before. This is just right. I'm too busy to transfer anyone recently. Since the doctor said so. Baizhen gave up the idea of persuading him. She could see that everyone was well aware of something. After Baizhen signed the consent form, he returned to the dormitory accompanied by Hua Mu. The dormitories in the inner tower are divided into single, family and group. The group is a student dormitory for 4 people. And single and family are basically staff dormitories. However, the income of sentinels and guides is not low. Especially when they reach a certain level. The inner tower will provide welfare housing. After forming a family, they usually move out. Therefore, the people who really live in the tower are basically single sentinels and guides. Baizhen's dormitory is still the same one as before. As the only female sentry in the tower except the leader, she has lived in this dormitory since her student days. Hua Mu came here when she was packing up her belongings, so she is not unfamiliar with it. It was a very painful memory, but now she has a different feeling. She came to Baizhen's residence, which is where Baizhen lives. Your Highness, would you like to drink something? There is tea and boiled water. Hua Mu sat down on the sofa naturally and said while looking around the room, just warm water is fine. The structure of the dormitory is very simple. 1 bedroom, 1 living room, 1 bathroom and 1 kitchen, which is only about 40 square meters in total. The room was very tidy, and it was obvious that it was tidied every day. Baizhen carefully observed his room while getting the water, and he breathed a sigh of relief when he did not find anything inappropriate. Baizhen had just moved in, and he only bought the necessary items. Even 1 cup. Your Highness, do you think the water temperature is suitable? Baizhen handed the transparent glass cup that was 8/10 full to Hua Mu. The water temperature of 40 degrees Celsius is the most suitable for drinking. Hua Mu took a small sip of the water cup, and then motioned Baizhen to sit next to him. What about you? Baizhen sat down straight and somewhat awkwardly. I'm not thirsty. And there's only 1 cup. Hua Mu looked at her and handed her the cup. Then let's drink together. This was the second time the 2 of them were alone. Compared to the previous time when the atmosphere was somewhat intense, this time it was slightly awkward and warm. It was like a couple who had just fallen in love. Baizhen had this thought in his mind, and couldn't help blushing for his little thought. I'm fine. Hua Mu pursed his lips, and somewhat forcefully pressed the cup into her hands. Do you mind if I drank it? No such thing. Then I drank it. Because there was no topic. The 2 of them were entangled in a glass of unnecessary boiled water, which was quite funny. Baizhen subconsciously avoided the place where Hua Mu touched, and drank the water in 1 breath. You still say you're not thirsty? Hua Mu watched her put down the cup without looking away, and her lips became fuller due to the moisturizing of the warm water. Baizhen pursed her lips awkwardly, stumbling. Actually, it's true. Hua Mu suddenly leaned over her, gently stroking the corner of her lips with his fingertips. Your Highness, do you have a lot of questions? Feeling the cool temperature of the fingertips on her lips, Baizhen felt that her heart was about to burn. Yeah. Hua Mu looked at her intently, and his low voice was a bit bewitching. Then why don't you ever ask? Baizhen didn't know where to look, so she could only stare at the wall on one side to barely stabilize her mind. I think you should tell me at the right time. Do you believe me then? I treated you so badly before. Wouldn't you think I was fickle, moody, teasing you? Hua Mu has been thinking a lot during this period. She doesn't care that Baizhen doesn't remember her, but will Baizhen care? Although she can't give up no matter whether Baizhen cares or not, this is something she has to consider. What does she think of her attitude towards her before? After experiencing such a thing, why doesn't she have any intention of pursuing the result? Is she not really that eager to know her past? Nervous, the guard who had never dared to look directly at the princess suddenly looked into her eyes because of this sentence. Is that so? Are you teasing me? Hua Mu's heart tightened. Of course not. I have never thought of such a thing. Baizhen smiled. I know. You are not that kind of person. Even when you said you hated me, I did not feel your disgust. I only felt very sad. So you don't ask anything? Don't you feel uneasy? Aren't you afraid of being deceived? There are some things that don't need to be asked, and you can get the answer by simple reasoning. But it takes courage to trace the past. Not only for me, but also for those who remember it. Since I don't remember anything, I can't do anything even if I find the so-called truth. So it's better to give the decision to those who know. I think it's not bad to wait until everyone is ready, and then find a result. Hua Mu's eyes were filled with tears in an instant. Are you a fool? Obviously so stupid. But what he said seemed full of wisdom. It has been like this since the past. It looks dull and wooden. But in fact, I understand it better than anyone else. It's just because I can feel your kindness. Baizhen smiled gently. Is it a good time now? Hua Mu nodded with a flat mouth. I will tell you whether it is a good time or not. She couldn't bear it anymore. Chapter 187. It's my biological mother. Baizhen understood. This experience was enough to make His Highness react as intensely as before. Although it didn't feel real for the time being, but she believed everything the princess said. I just couldn't believe that you really came back before. I thought it was Nian testing me. Baizhen smiled knowingly. I understand. The leader is not good at expressing his thoughts to others, so he is sometimes misunderstood. No, Hua Mu didn't want to express this at all. Humph, why are you speaking for her? If it weren't for her, why would I have met you only now? And caused all those misunderstandings. Baizhen put himself in Hua Mu's shoes, and could understand Hua Mu's anger a little. I don't know how to say it, but I don't want you and the leader to have a rift because of me. Hua Mu sat on her lap, leaning on her like a cushion, and her tone became light because of her satisfaction. I don't have time to quarrel with her. She raised her head and leaned on Baizhen's chest, finally with a little shyness. After all, there are many things to do now. Your Highness. Baizhen was at a loss because of Hua Mu's intimate behavior. Although he had listened to the past of himself and Hua Mu, and even realized that they already had a child. For Baizhen now, it still needed some preparation to conduct intimate behavior. Hua Mu was not dissatisfied with Baizhen's reaction, as he had always been like this. Why are you hiding? Are you uncomfortable? Baizhen did feel a little embarrassed. How to deal with the distance was the biggest problem for the two of them now. No. I'm not mentally prepared yet. She undoubtedly admired His Highness. But if she did something beyond the rules just because of this admiration, it would be too frivolous. The relationship between the two is not equal at the moment, which is really unfair to His Highness. I know what you are thinking, so I won't force you. But if it's just this level, please don't avoid me. Okay? She has endured longing and loneliness for too long, so she can put aside any shame and pride. Baizhen couldn't refuse such a request anyway, after all. It's not that she didn't want to get close to Hua Mu. From the moment she saw His Highness, she thought about him all the time. I understand. Hua Mu turned slightly to the side, looking up at her. Then hugged me. The princess's beautiful and charming face was as beautiful as a white lotus covered with dew in the morning. Baizhen swallowed his saliva subconsciously and hugged her with shaking hands. Yes, is that so? Hua Mu buried his head in the full and soft chest of the female guard, sighed comfortably. Hold tighter. It was Baizhen's arms and embrace, powerful and warm, which made people feel safe. How long has it been since she last felt this? The wonderful feeling of happiness even made her heart ache, and her eyes gradually moistened. After being dry for too long, even her body felt unfamiliar with the feeling of happiness. Baizhen felt the body in her arms tremble slightly, and finally couldn't help but hug Hua Mu's thin shoulders tightly. The other person's slender figure seemed even thinner when touched, which made her feel pity in her heart. Your Highness. Baizhen, you are finally back. You are finally back to me. After 5 years, Hua Mu can finally cry out loud again. Suddenly losing Baizhen. Then experiencing her father's departure. Learning her life story. Becoming a princess. Raising by Huang. She came through step by step, thinking she was strong enough. But it wasn't. She was just numb, because she had been immersed in pain. Her heart was tasting the pain of losing Baizhen every moment. No one could fill this gap. And she could only slowly get used to the emptiness in her heart. The trembling body and crying of the person in her arms made Baizhen feel sad. And her eyes became moist. I'm sorry, I gave you such painful memories. Some things can be felt even if you lose your memory. Baizhen can feel the connection between herself and Hua Mu. The senses of her whole body are telling her that she must protect this person well, so that she will not have sorrow and pain. Hua Mu looked at her with tears in her eyes, with a light that longs for love and care. Baizhen. The voice of His Highness is like honey wine, emitting an intoxicating sweet breath. The light eyebrows are obedient, like a delicate flower waiting to be picked. Baizhen's brain was confused for a moment, and her breathing became rapid. although she didn't remember. She and His Highness were indeed in a relationship like a couple. Not only that, even the little prince, Bai Huang, was born. And the two of them must have crossed the most intimate boundary. So, if it was just this level, it must not matter. Right? Hua Mu raised her chin slightly, and almost brought herself to Baizhen. It was something that both of them longed for. So it must not be considered an offense or disrespect. Right? Baizhen panted and lowered his head. The equally attractive lips were just a millimeter away from touching. And Hua Mu's light brain suddenly made a vibrating sound. Baizhen woke up as if from a dream, and turned away in panic and shyness. Hua Mu couldn't help but let out a soft "TSK." Just a little bit. She was just a little bit away from success. She didn't care whether she remembered or not. She had been hungry for 5 years. Couldn't she be fed first before talking about pure love? Damn it. Damn it! Your Highness. Your call. Baizhen saw that Hua Mu was slow to answer, and covered his face and reminded softly. Hua Mu looked at the caller helplessly, and resigned herself to the call. Bai Huang. Mom. The excited voice of the little prince came into her mind. Mom. Where are you? I finally finished the homework assigned by Mian. You said you would take me and Momo to see Shining Beauty. Don't forget it. What a cute daughter. Hua Mu was full of black lines. Just because she wanted to see Shining Beauty, her happiness was shattered again. Mom has something to do now. Can I take you there later? Hua Baiwang said very obediently. Okay. Okay, I know you are busy. Mom. Then take me there tonight. Hua Mu and Baizhen chatted for an afternoon. It was almost dinner time now. What difference did it make from the evening? She didn't know who inherited her daughter's impatience from. Mom doesn't have time tonight. Later. Hua Baihuang's voice was obviously lost. Is it not possible to go to the evening? What about tomorrow? Of course, it wouldn't work tomorrow either. She still had to accompany Baizhen. But it was a bit hurtful to the child anyway. Hua Mu couldn't help but soften her voice. Bai Huang. Be good. Mom has been busy these days. When Mom has time, I will take you to see the movie twice, no 3 times. Okay. Wow, but I promised Momo that I would go with her to see the movie on the first day of its release. I worked so hard to complete the homework assigned by Mian. Hua Mu was also a little embarrassed. Although it is not impossible to have someone take them to see the movie, or watch it directly in a private theater, or even use some privileges to let them see it before the premiere, but whether it is her. Hua Chu, Hua Zheng has always avoided this situation. One reason is that she is afraid that the child will develop a sense of privilege before understanding responsibility. And the other is that she is afraid of destroying the child's innocence. The Shining Beautiful Girl has a plot that interacts with the young audience. It is meaningless not to watch it with other children. Hua Mu is still thinking about how to have the best of both worlds. Baizhen is already anxious and hesitant. She can't help but feel close to the little prince when she first sees him. The similar face makes her instinctively feel like a mother. Hua Mu knows what Baizhen is thinking as soon as she sees her face. And she feels very wronged. This guy knows how to feel sorry for the child. How come he doesn't know how to feel sorry for her? Who gave birth to the child? You have to have surgery tomorrow. Finally being taken care of. Baizhen immediately said. It's just a movie. It won't take too long and it won't be too tiring. The surgery will be tomorrow afternoon. It won't have any impact at all. Well, you want to go together so much, you don't even bother to hide it. Mom. Mom, who are you talking to? It's you. Aunt Baizhen. She has to have surgery tomorrow. Mom will accompany her today. Ah. When Hua Baiwang heard the word surgery, he immediately became nervous. What's wrong with Aunt? Are you feeling uncomfortable somewhere? Then, Mom, you can accompany Aunt. I won't go to the movie. Hua Mo is weak and sickly, and with the various peripherals implanted, she often needs to undergo surgery to adjust. Hua Baiwang was influenced by her parents, and knew the significance of the operation. The child was so well behaved that it made people feel distressed. Hua Mu couldn't bear it. Seeing Baizhen's face full of pity, she finally changed her mind. Your Aunt Baizhen said it's okay. Let me take you to the movies. Okay. Huh? Really? Auntie. Is it really okay? Your Highness. Hua Mu heard his daughter's surprised words, and saw Baizhen's surprised expression. He couldn't help but find it a little funny. After all, Bai Huang is Baizhen's child, and it is necessary to strengthen emotional communication. She was just a little depressed about not having improved herself, but she didn't want to stop them from meeting. It's okay to take you and Momo to the movies, but you have to accompany your aunt with your mother for the next 2 days. Is that okay? Hua Baiwang agreed repeatedly. Okay. Okay, I haven't seen my aunt for a long time. Momo will come too. We'll accompany my aunt together. This time, not only Hua Mu came, but also the two little ones came together. Baizhen was happy, but also a little worried. Your Highness, is it okay? What are you talking about at this time? It just so happens that my mother and Nian Nian have been so busy recently that they are nowhere to be seen. I need to take a good rest after working so many days. Those two little ones are just waiting for someone to play with them. So don't worry about anything else. Baizhen finally felt relieved after hearing her say that, and then said impatiently, Then let's go pick up the little prince now. Hua Mu glanced at her with dissatisfaction. Why call him little prince? Call him by Huang. She was really mad at him. They were her biological mother and daughter, and they came to disturb her happiness. Chapter 188. It's my biological daughter. Mom, Auntie! When Hua Baiwang saw Hua Mu and Baizhen, he rushed over excitedly, while Hua Mo was held by a maid behind her. Seeing her like a calf, Hua Mu quickly pulled Baizhen in front of her to block her daughter's brutal attack. Although she was extremely grateful for her daughter's health, when she saw her sister's weak body, such vigorous energy was really too much for her to bear. Baizhen stretched out his long arms and caught Hua Baiwang steadily. Little prince. Wow, it's Auntie! Hua Baiwang hugged Baizhen's long legs and was so happy that he wanted to climb up. Auntie, I haven't seen you for a long time. Baizhen picked her up, and his face was filled with uncontrollable joy. The sudden appearance of a 5-year-old daughter was indeed a big shock from a certain perspective. But when she thought that this was her and Hua Mu's child, she could only feel joy. Little prince? How are you these days? Hua Baiwang was not shy at all, and he hugged Baizhen's neck and nodded repeatedly. Yes. Yes. Well, it's just that we haven't seen each other for a long time, and I miss her a little. The leader has indeed rarely appeared recently, and Baizhen has not seen her since the last time. As the two talked, Hua Mu took Hua Mo from the maid. Hua Mo was not much older than Hua Baiwang. Hua Mu treated her more like a daughter than a sister. Hua Mo wore a mask that covered almost half of her face, and she nestled in Hua Mu's arms obediently. The mask was the latest image input device, which interacted with a chip implanted under the scalp, allowing Hua Mo to see the scene. Because she was still young, it was somewhat of a burden for Hua Mo, so she rarely wore it on weekdays. Momo. Hua Baiwang saw her mother holding Hua Mo, and twisted her body in Baizhen's arms to get closer. Momo. She was so young but so strong, and when she twisted, she looked like a big fish. If it was Hua Mu, she would have been unable to hold her. Baizhen calmly adjusted her posture to let her get close to Hua Mo, and her heart and eyes were full of her daughter's figure. Momo, we can go to the movies, and Aunt Baizhen will go with us. Hua Baiwang's clinginess was already very unbearable, and he and Hua Mo wanted to stick together like conjoined twins. Hua Mu and Baizhen each held two people, but she just leaned her body to get close to Hua Mo. Your Highness, let me do it. Baizhen saw that Hua Mu was struggling to hold her, and stretched out his other hand to take Hua Mo. Little Highness, can I hold you? The black mask turned slightly. Hua Mo looked at Baizhen, and then very cute words appeared on the mask surface. Okay. Hua Mu smiled, and said incredulously, Forget about Bai Huang, how come even Mo is so close to you? Baizhen took Hua Mo and said shyly, The two little highnesses are very well behaved. She held the two people in each hand, without any effort. Hua Baiwang saw Hua Mo was also hugged by Baizhen, and happily pulled her hand, chattering non-stop. The destination of the four people was the Imperial Capital National Theater, and Hua Mu had already contacted the person in charge. Although it is not advisable to foster a sense of privilege in children, the two little girls will be considered new internet celebrities after the new year, and the necessary confidentiality measures must not be lost. In order to avoid unnecessary disturbances, the theater has VIP sessions for celebrities, which meet the needs of nobles who want to experience the entertainment life of ordinary people. In order to avoid being recognized on the spot, Hua Mu disguised herself and the two children. Hua Baiwang put on a shiny girl's peripheral mask, and Hua Mo put on a hat. They would be submerged in a group of children and would not be very conspicuous. However, Hua Mu's wide-brimmed hat and mask made her look like she was trying to cover up something. There were more advanced equipment in the tower that could more easily and reliably cover up a person's face, but Hua Mu did not do so. One of the main reasons was that she did not really want to cover up her tracks. The princess took her daughter and sister to watch a movie for children in the crowd. This was a loving thing from any angle. Today is different from the past. The royal family is no longer just aloof. Appropriately getting close to the people is more conducive to the image of the royal family. So all Huamu had to do was not to be recognized on the spot and cause unnecessary commotion. After all, with the current paparazzi technology, if she really guarded against it, she would be the only one in trouble. The hovercraft quickly arrived at the parking lot of the theater, and the 4 people were taken to the special elevator as soon as they came out. The elevator went directly to the VIP theater. When the 4 of them arrived, many children were already seated with their parents. The people present were either nobles or celebrities in the business or political circles, or at least stars in film and television dramas or sports. The adults only nodded slightly when they knew each other, and only those who were familiar with each other would exchange a few words. This was the children's home court, and the adults did not spoil the fun. Huamu's arrival attracted some people's attention, but no one came up to disturb them. Baizhen held Hua Baiwang and Huaimo and sat down, and he and Huamu held the 2 children in the middle, one on each side. The family seats were very spacious, and there was a semi-open partition separating them from the seats next to them, which gave them a certain amount of private space. Hua Baiwang and Huaimo both held flashlights from the staff, which were props for the interaction later. Mo, just follow me later. I'll hold your hand. Huaimo held the flashlight tightly in one hand, held Hua Baiwang's hand with the other, and nodded vigorously. This was her first time to watch an interactive sensory movie, and she was inevitably a little nervous. Participatory interactive sensory movies are most commonly used in children's animated movies. One reason is that the animation technology is relatively cheap to achieve this effect. Another reason is that the technology is not yet mature. It feels a bit stiff for adults, but it is just right for children. Bai Huang, don't get too excited later. Although most people's reactions when watching movies will not be reflected in real body movements, Hua Baiwang is probably a type with more sensitive nerves, and often moves. Huamu's face turned blue twice because she accompanied her daughter to the movies. She was hit by Hua Baiwang's fist, so she often pushed this matter to Mian. Hua Baiwang remembered his own achievements and stuck out his tongue in embarrassment. I know. Baizhen looked at the warm scene of Huamu communicating with the child, and a warm current flowed through his heart. If she hadn't disappeared for 5 years, would she have lived such a life with His Highness long ago? It's not ordinary, but it's also fun. Okay, the movie is about to start. Huamu helped Huaimo match the signal of the mask with the seat, and Baizhen helped Hua Baiwang put on the matching glasses in the seat. Adults who bring their children to watch the movie usually do not wear sensory glasses. On the one hand, they need to ensure the safety of their children, and on the other hand, they can watch the children's performance in the movie through the screen. Shining Pretty Cure is a classic animation series that has been passed down from a long time ago, telling the friendship between girls, magic and battles. Although Baizhen had watched movies several times with friends after waking up, it was the first time for him to watch this type of movie, and he couldn't help but feel a little interested. Huamu knew that this sentinel was very girly, and seeing her staring at the screen with relish, he found her funny and cute. Ah, it's Bai Huang. The children who watch the animation will become a character in the interactive plot. Although they will not participate in the main plot, they will become the closest viewers in the battle and cheer for the protagonist. Of course, the images on the screen were animated, but because of the seat numbers, Baizhen recognized Hua Baiwang and Huaimo at a glance. The 2 of them were surrounded by a group of children, cheering for the protagonist, who was fighting the evil creatures. Even in the virtual world, Hua Baiwang still protected Huaimo tightly. The other children seemed to notice that this little friend could not walk very well, and helped her to support Huaimo. The whole scene looked very loving. This is the fun that can only be experienced in the cinema, which is especially necessary for Hua Baiwang and Huaimo who lack playmates. Huamu heard Baizhen call her daughter's name directly, and laughed softly. You dare to call Bai Huang now? The child couldn't hear the 2 people talking because of the device. After the movie started, there was a certain sound insulation between the seats, and even the sentry could hardly hear the conversation. Baizhen smiled a little embarrassedly. After all, to Bai Huang, I am just an ant who has just appeared not long ago. Not only me, but she should also need some time. She will definitely adapt faster than you. Do you believe it? This daughter is as thick-skinned as the cable on the Cross River Bridge, and I don't know who she looks like. Obviously, both Baijin and she are very delicate. If that's the case, I'll be very happy. Of course it's like that. Although Bai Huang is very familiar with people. You are the first person she can't forget after only meeting you once. This must be the induction between parents and children. Hua Mu said it confidently. Baijin looked at her confident expression in the faint light, and couldn't help but have the urge to kiss her. This is the mother of her child. The lover who thought she was dead but still loved her, and waited for her for 5 years. She could fully understand why she had fallen in love with her. And she was convinced that no matter how many times she had experienced death and amnesia, she would fall in love with her again. Your Highness. Hua Mu heard Baijin's affectionate voice, and turned to look at her. Her dark eyes still looked so bright even in such a dark environment. She saw strong affection and desire in them. It must be very inappropriate to kiss on the spot of a girl's animation movie. Right? No. 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 To be more precise, it was a blasphemy to innocence. But who cares? No one can see it anyway. Hua Mu pursed her lips and took the initiative to move closer. Baijin also seemed unable to resist the temptation and slowly leaned over. Just as the two were about to kiss each other through the child, Hua Bai Wang, who was sitting next to Baijin, suddenly shouted, "Rainbow burst," and punched Baijin on the chin. This is really a daughter. Hua Mu looked at Baijin, who covered his chin and showed a rare expression of frustration, and laughed unkindly. Chapter 189. No one can sleep tonight. The movie ended, and the audience left one after another. The two waited for a while, until most of the people had left before they got up and left. Baijin was holding Hua Bai Wang and Huaimo, and the two girls were excitedly talking. Huaimo was rarely excited because of this novel experience, and a series of words appeared on the mask. Hua Bai Wang already recognized a lot of words, and he and Huaimo had a tacit understanding. Even if he didn't recognize some words, he still chatted with her happily. Hua Mu bought some peripherals for the two little girls, and then went home to Baijin's dormitory in the inner tower. Baijin didn't expect Hua Mu to bring two children to stay overnight, and didn't know whether to refuse or accept. Hua Mu didn't give her a chance to choose, and drove the car directly into the inner tower. It was the first time for Hua Bai Wang to stay overnight, and she was very excited when she found out. Baijin couldn't bear to spoil her fun, but he was still a little worried. Will it cause unnecessary commotion if the three princes stay overnight at my place? And will His Majesty be worried? I have already explained everything. The security level of the inner tower is the same as that of the palace, so what is there to worry about? Hua Mu didn't take it seriously at all. And I said I would accompany you for the operation. You wouldn't want me to go back and forth at night, right? It's said to be going back and forth, but in fact it's only a dozen minutes away. Baijin felt that it was too much trouble for her to ask Hua Mu to come and take care of her, so naturally she couldn't say such a thing. Then I'll contact the reception area and arrange accommodation for you. What do you want to arrange? You can stay there. Although Baijin knew Hua Mu's intention, he didn't expect her to say it so easily. But there is only one bed. It's not a single bed, it's enough for sleeping. We are not fat. Comfortable sleep is very important for sentinels. In addition to the fact that each dormitory is a silent room, all the details are in place. The bed is big enough and comfortable enough, more than enough for 2 adults and 2 children. Baijin was not worried about this at all, but looking at Hua Mu's expression, she couldn't say anything. Compared to the casualness of His Highness, she felt that she was really a little cautious. Wow, is this where my aunt lives? Hua Bai Wang looked around curiously as he entered the room. Small and cute. The sentinel's simple and clean dormitory was probably only cute because it was small. Baijin put her down. Hua Bai Wang immediately jumped up and stretched out his hand to hug Huaimo. Momo, Momo, let me hug Momo. Although Baijin had seen her brute force, she was still a little worried that she would not be able to hold the child steadily. It's okay, just let Bai Huang hold her. Hua Mu took out toiletries from the bag she was carrying, and then handed the bag to Baijin. I'll take them to take a bath. You put the things down. Baijin completely gave up struggling, and handed Huaimo to Hua Bai Wang. Momo. Momo. Hua Bai Wang rubbed his face against Huamo's as soon as he received her. Huamo's mask had been removed, because she was too excited just now. She looked a little drowsy at this time. Okay. Bai Wang. Momo is sleepy. Mom will take you to take a bath. You should go to bed early after the bath. Yeah. 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 Baijin watched the 3 people enter the bathroom, and still felt a little unreal. I didn't know the cause, and effect of the matter until the afternoon. I didn't expect that 4 people would sleep together at night. This progress was really a bit fast. Fortunately, there were children around. Otherwise she would be even more at a loss. Baizhen returned to the bedroom to put away her things, changed all the sheets and quilt covers, and cleaned carefully before she felt relieved. Hua Mu's voice came from the bathroom soon. Baizhen, come and hug Bai Huang. The 3 of them were in the wind shower room. Hua Baihuang and Hua Imo were only wrapped in a small bath towel, and Hua Mu was only wearing a half-wet white shirt. This was the scene that Baizhen saw when he came in. Hua Mu helped Hua Imo, who was sitting on a low stool, wipe her hair, and Hua Baihuang squatted aside and watched attentively. Your Highness. Baizhen, carry Bai Huang to the bed first, I'll come later. No, I want to wait for Momo to come together. Hua Baihuang held Hua Mu's arm and refused to leave. Hua Mu was so clung to her that she couldn't move. She said helplessly, Baizhen, what are you looking at? Hurry up and pick up Bai Huang. The main reason Baizhen was stunned was that she found that the shirt Hua Mu was wearing was hers. Ah? Oh. She didn't dare to ask Hua Mu where he got it from, and quickly picked up Hua Baihuang. Bai Huang, Auntie will take you to put on your clothes first. Okay. Momo will be ready soon. Hua Baihuang looked at Hua Imo and hesitated for a while, finally agreed. Okay, then Mom. You have to take Momo out quickly. Okay, I know, it will be ready soon. Hua Mu glanced at Baizhen, who was hesitant to speak. What's wrong? No, it's okay. The prince was not wearing underwear. She really couldn't say that she noticed this. Baizhen hurriedly hugged Hua Baihuang and left. Auntie. Hua Baihuang hugged Baizhen's neck, leaning on her shoulder, as soon as he came out of the bathroom. He asked innocently, Are you Mom's lover? Baizhen really didn't expect that this word would come out of a child's mouth, and was stunned on the spot. Auntie? Baizhen finally calmed down, and while carrying Hua Baihuang to the bed, he asked, Bai Huang, who told you this? Hua Baihuang jumped onto the bed, wrapped in a shaky bath towel, and rolled on the bed. No one told me. I just knew it. Come on. Put your hands up. Baizhen took out the nightgown that Hua Mu brought, and helped Hua Baihuang put it on. How did you know? Hua Baihuang made a long live gesture, and said with a smile, Because Mom likes you so much, and she wants to sleep with you. The judgment standard is really simple and crude. If this is really the case, Baihuang, what do you think? Although Baizhen didn't think Hua Baihuang understood the meaning of lover, he couldn't help asking. Hua Baihuang's tender face showed a rare serious expression. I think it's great. Mom likes you, I like you too. Mom is very happy, I am very happy too. This is the first time I see Mom so happy. Is it the first time Your Highness is so happy? Yes, this is the first time I see Mom so happy. Baizhen looked at her innocent appearance, and his heart was hurt by Hua Mu's melancholy that even a child could tell. What are you talking about? Hua Mu came in holding Hua Imo, still wearing the half-wet shirt. Hua Baihuang's reaction was faster than Baizhen's. He hugged her neck and said, This is a secret between my aunt and me. Hua Mu carried Hua Imo to the bed, and knocked on Hua Baihuang's head. Little kid, but smart. Hua Baihuang's attention had already turned to Hua Imo. The 2 little guys always had a good relationship. Fortunately, they kept each other company, so they wouldn't be too lonely when the 3 adults were busy. Hua Mu let them play by themselves and said to Baizhen, Why? You have such a good relationship with Bai Huang? You are still very distant with me. No such thing. Hua Mu took her arm and smiled meaningfully. In that case, let's take a bath together. It's a sign of a good relationship. You just? Hua Mu shook the shirt on his body. I was just helping Bai Huang and the others wash. Otherwise, how could it be so fast? Oh, I forgot to say. I borrowed your clothes to wear. I only brought a skirt. Baizhen looked at the shirt that had almost no covering effect, and his face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then you wash first. I'll watch Bai Huang and the others. Hua Baihuang hugged Hua Imo and got into the bed, revealing only a pair of big black and round eyes. Auntie, don't worry. Momo and I can sleep by ourselves. You and Mom go take a shower. Hua Mu looked at her daughter approvingly. And it was worth her communication. In the bathroom just now, there was no way out. If she retreated here, she would not only be sorry for His Highness, but also be ashamed to face Bai Huang. I understand. The well-trained body of the female sentry was a little thinner than before, but it was still full of strength and beauty. Slender and powerful limbs, slightly dark skin, clear muscle lines, and scars like medals. No matter how you look at it, it is a perfect body that can be used as a sculpture prototype. It's been so long since we last met. Hua Mu almost thought he had forgotten about her. Your Highness. Baizhen tried to look away, but still couldn't ignore Hua Mu's gaze. If they just took a bath together, it might be more natural. After all, they were both women, so it was safe in a sense. Don't make noise. Hua Mu approached step by step, forcing Baizhen to press against the wall. But Your Highness, taking a bath. Baizhen couldn't help but want to cover his body, but he felt that such behavior was a bit too hypocritical. I've never seen this wound before. Hua Mu pointed to a cross-shaped scar on the lower part of her chest that looked like a flame tattoo. Wondering, when was it done? Baizhen may not have any impression of other wounds on her body, but she has a deep memory of this wound. After all, it was caused after she woke up. Ah, this shouldn't be considered a scar. It was left by a friend who treated me. Her spirit is a phoenix. Phoenix? Because it is a relatively rare type. Hua Mu immediately thought of a royal family. What's the name of your friend? Baizhen had no sense of crisis, and honestly said, It's Benyu. She is from Heliopolis. I was taken care of by her when I just woke up. Benyu? Hua Mu had an impression of the name. No. She also had an impression of the person. The third princess of Heliopolis. A beautiful guide with beautiful red hair. She remembered that she would visit Shunchao Empire on behalf of the country next week. She was obviously not allowed to know. So why did she let Baina meet Baizhen? Mian. That bastard. Your Highness. Your Highness? Baizhen looked at Hua Mu's expression, which seemed to have made up his mind, and his heart was in his throat. Hua Mu smiled sweetly. I'll help you. Take a bath. It really can't wait any longer. To hell with the gradual process. She wants no one to sleep tonight, which will leave Baizhen with enough energy for surgery. Chapter 190 Theseus's Phantom Pain. The operation went quite smoothly. When Baizhen woke up, she still felt dizzy due to anesthesia. She was not unfamiliar with this. When she woke up, this feeling had accompanied her for almost 2 months. Someone held her hand. In her blurred vision, she saw a figure that she was becoming more and more familiar with, although it seemed that there were 2 of them now. Your Highness. She wanted to make a sound, but her mouth and tongue were out of control. Baizhen's left arm was still soaked in the recovery fluid. It would take at least 24 hours to free it. Not only Hua Mu. Hua Baiwang and Hua Mo also sat at the end of the bed to accompany her. Hua Mu asked her not to talk, and leaned over to kiss her forehead. It's over. If you're tired, sleep a little longer. Baizhen felt Hua Mu's soft lips, and felt a warm current rushing from her forehead into her brain. And the dizziness was relieved a lot. This made her think of her experience and feelings last night, and her consciousness became much clearer in an instant. Dear Auntie! Hua Baiwang saw her mother kissed her, and immediately came over to join in the fun. I want to kiss you too. I want to kiss you too. She was like a little bull, and Hua Mu was afraid that she didn't know the severity of the situation. So he held her head to prevent her from coming over. Don't pressure, Aunt. Hua Baiwang was not ignorant, but she was too excited to control her movements. After hearing what her mother said, she immediately got up lightly, and carefully leaned over to Baizhen and kissed him. Aunt, are you still in pain? Baizhen never knew that the difference between having family members with her in the hospital and not having them would be so huge. If she hadn't experienced it, she probably wouldn't have felt anything. But after experiencing this kind of happiness, she understood the feeling of loneliness. I'm fine. Hua Baiwang showed a relieved expression. That's great. Auntie, you haven't woken up yet. Mommy was crying. Baiwang. Hua Mu didn't expect this little traitor to be so unreliable, and he didn't hesitate to betray his mother. Hua Baiwang was startled, and he fell back to the end of the bed, burying his face in Hua Mo's small body. Hua Mo sensed something, and quietly hugged her head. Hua Mu was amused by her daughter, and lost her temper. Seeing Baizhen looking at her faintly, she rarely showed a bit of shyness. Ever since she knew Baizhen was really back, she has been acting very boldly. Last night, she was even more. She went all out. But after all, she would still be shy about something that would make her shy. I didn't cry that much, I was just a little worried. Well, she couldn't help but secretly shed a few tears. Looking at Baizhen's unconscious appearance, she inevitably thought of the scene when he was frozen. Baizhen held Hua Mu tightly with his hands, then had slightly recovered some strength, with deep guilt in his eyes. She felt sorry for almost dying, for not remembering the past, and for not being able to face Hua Mu calmly now. Although what happened last night brought the two of them closer in their relationship, it also caused some other problems. Because she didn't remember it, she didn't feel deeply before. But after having close contact with Hua Mu, she suddenly felt a strong sense of loss. Moreover, she believed that she was not the only one who felt this sense of loss. And His Highness must feel it even more strongly. They were originally sentinels and guides who had been combined. The connection between their spirits allowed them to have the closest and most inseparable connection. However, both of their spirits disappeared because of that incident. Although they were still sure of each other's feelings, the strong sense of emptiness of losing half of their bodies attacked them violently last night. Those were not just tears of happiness and joy, but also tears of nostalgia and pain. Under love and joy, there was the fact that lovers licked each other's wounds. When he thought of this, Baizhen felt even more sorry for Hua Mu. "What are you thinking about?" Hua Mu saw her frowning slightly, and gently stroked her long hair, and asked, "What are you thinking about?" "So seriously?" Baizhen smiled faintly, and shook his head gently. "Anyway, don't let your mind wander. Take care of your body these days, and think about other things later." "Yes." While Her Highness was busy taking care of her lover, some rumors gradually began to spread in the empire. First, a paparazzi took a picture of Her Highness taking her daughter and sister to watch a movie with a tall and outstanding woman. Later, it was spread from some forum that the princess stayed in Nida for a week and had been taking care of a female guard in the hospital. A lover. The public quickly smelled the scent of gossip, and various speculations and inferences quickly spread on the internet. Based on the tragic experience of this princess and her self-discipline and seclusion, few people have gossiped about this in recent years. But few does not mean no, not only guessing the identity of her deceased partner in recent years. More and more people have begun to pay attention to when this princess will restart her love life. Unfortunately, there are not many candidates. After thinking about it, it seems that the female sentinel who succeeded the position of the princess's guard is somewhat suitable. However, once the appearance of the two young princes was made public during the Chinese New Year, many experts who specialize in studying royal gossip began to trace the origin. Black hair and black eyes, or brown eyes that are similar to black eyes, are not uncommon in the empire. Several large families in the empire are yellow people with black hair and black eyes. But after a series of eliminations, the candidate for the partner of the princess was locked on the black-eyed female sentinel, who was once popular in the empire, and then disappeared without a trace. There was not much video footage at the time, and the charm of this guard was so high that it set off a trend of female sentinels in the empire despite the lack of information. This inference is very reasonable and well-founded. Once it was spread through forums and various social media, it immediately became popular on the internet. After the photos taken by the paparazzi were made public, this inference seemed even more reliable and convincing. The new woman looked almost exactly like the sentry. Was it a rekindled love or a substitute lover? Wouldn't it be delicious? The public was excited. On the internet, Hua Mu stayed with Baizhen in the hospital for a week. Although he left during the period, he took care of Baizhen in person most of the time, especially during rehabilitation. She always accompanied him. Baizhen's recovery was not smooth. It was not that there was a functional obstacle, but the pain was very serious. Even with the current technology, it was difficult to avoid a little pain after the operation. In addition, Baizhen was still a guard with sharp five senses, so everyone thought it was normal at first. But the problem soon became more and more serious. Neither painkillers nor anesthetics had any effect. Shinshurha immediately determined that it was not a physical reason. After the anesthesia wore off, the moment Baizhen realized that her arm was back, the pain of losing her arm was reactivated in her brain. This is a phantom pain very similar to the previous limb phantom pain, because the originally amputated limb has been reattached. It is also called Theseus phantom pain. This situation rarely occurs among ordinary people, but the probability is greatly increased in sentinels. However, this symptom is not permanent, and the symptoms will gradually ease after the cerebral cortex function reorganization care. Shinshurha was experienced and quickly adjusted the rehabilitation plan. He not only cooperated with physical therapy, but also applied for a guide in the tower to help with mental treatment. Although the guards' demand for guides was far lower than that of sentinels, they were equally indispensable. However, guides have always been a scarce resource, and most of the time it is difficult for them to receive comfort from public guides. Hua Mu was hit hard by Baizhen's need to apply for public guide treatment, which made her recall the pain of losing Luna again, as the half of the sentinel and guide. The spirit body, although not following the host from birth, will mostly accompany the host to the end of life. Sentinels and guides who suffered serious trauma and only lost their spirit bodies are usually considered to be saved by their spirit bodies. Losing memory is another self-protection mechanism. But Hua Mu did not forget. She did not forget the pain of losing Baizhen, the pain of losing Hattie, or the pain of losing Luna. Baizhen's return brought a revival of the heart. The heart that was numb with pain suddenly became alive. And the pain of losing an important half of the body began to become more and more intense. She knew that not only she felt it, but Baizhen also felt it. This is one of the reasons why the two of them had an intimate relationship. But they never mentioned it during this period. That kind of happiness, that kind of pain made the two of them reluctant to mention it. Time is up. Okay. Let's end today's rehabilitation here. Today is the day Baizhen is discharged from the hospital. This is the last rehabilitation during her stay in the hospital. Shinshura took the trouble to accompany her to complete it personally. Because of the accident of Theseus' phantom pain, Baizhen's rehabilitation period was slightly extended. After being discharged from the hospital, she must report to the rehabilitation area every day. Baizhen looked fine except for being a little tired. The rehabilitation training of bionic prostheses at the beginning was mostly about fineness, so less physical energy was consumed. Auntie, are you done playing? I want to play. I want to play. Today's rehabilitation project is a hand-touch music game, which is really playing a game in a sense. Hua Baiwang had been eager to try it, and couldn't wait to rub against Baizhen when she saw him stop. She has been very active since she was born, and it's rare that she can accompany Baizhen so obediently these days. Baizhen endured the pain in her arm, and tried to carry Hua Baiwang to the seat. But Hua Mu was one step ahead of her, and picked up her daughter, and put her on the chair. You can only play for a while, bring Momo to play with you. Hua Mo also had a lot of training on keeping her limbs healthy, so she was not unfamiliar with rehabilitation props. Okay. Hua Mu settled the two children, and took out a handkerchief to wipe the sweat off Baizhen's face. It hurts again? In fact, the pain has not stopped, and it can only be alleviated by the guide element and neutralizer. From this point, we can actually know that the root of the pain is the ability of the sentinel. It's okay. Shinshura doesn't think this is a purely bad thing. Theseus's phantom pain is often a sign of the return of the ability of the sentinel, who has lost his spiritual body. You can take a rest and go to Sinsang. She will be free in half an hour. But it's too early to say now. After all, the inevitable connection between the two has not been studied yet. She is afraid that the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. Chapter 191. An old friend comes. Although Sinsang has seen Baizhen many times after Baizhen came back, she still inevitably wavers in her heart every time she sees her and the princess. After all, the gossip that is spreading wildly on the internet is right in front of her. She almost couldn't help but want to open a forum to share the truth with everyone several times. Of course, the professional ethics of the military stopped her. Of course, the reason for the wavering is not only this. Another point is that every time she comforts Baizhen, the prince's eyes seem to want to expose people. It's not that her eyes are fierce or harsh. It's more like melancholy, loss and self-blame than jealousy. It makes people feel uneasy, and keep reflecting on whether they have done something wrong. It's just the most normal comfort. Sinsang is one of the first people to know about their relationship. She is also very sad about their ups and downs. But no matter what, she doesn't want to be watched by the princess like this. Is there anyone who can take over her job? Of course not. As the youngest S-level public guide, who else can take on such a difficult task if not her? Baizhen's vacation only ends today, and Hua Mu will be busy for a while. The Heliopolis delegation will arrive tomorrow, and she and Hua Chu will go to receive them together. Things are different now. Baizhen is no longer her exclusive guard. After she became a princess, her private time has been greatly reduced. It is simply a luxury to be together all the time. Hua Mu once tactfully proposed to transfer her to be his guard, but was rejected without hesitation. The sentry who was once panicked because of being fired, now has other goals? Although Hua Mu forced herself to understand, she still inevitably felt lost. If possible, she really didn't want to be separated from Baizhen at all. Without seeing Bai Jin, her heart felt like a hole was missing. Sweet moments are always short, and long-term companionship is even more difficult. She even couldn't help but envy her two mothers. Although there was still some distance in their hearts, they were at least always by each other's side. Your Highness, you can go back without worry. Tomorrow's affairs will be busy, so go to bed early today. The two came out of the comfort room. It was already late. Although Bai Jin was reluctant, he still persuaded Hua Mu to return to the palace early. Hua Mu should really go back. Although she handled some affairs this week, she was absent from work compared to usual days. There will be important matters to discuss in the meeting tomorrow, and she must be fully prepared. I know. Keep in touch. I will come to see you when I have time. Hua Mu gently and meticulously arranged Bai Jin's uniform, with a reluctant look on her face. Although Bai Jin is not good at speaking, every time he sees her tender eyes, he always feels that there are thousands of words of love in his throat that he wants to express. I couldn't help but hug Her Highness tightly. I wanted to use my body to protect her from the wind and rain. I wanted to see her face no longer sad. When Hua Mu invited her to be an exclusive guard, Bai Jin was very moved and wanted to agree immediately. But reason stopped her in time. She did not forget the fact that she was no longer a sentinel. No matter how glorious her past was, no matter how powerful she was just a guard without a spirit body now. And this would not change. The exclusive guard of the royal family must be at least a sentinel above a level. Although she believed that Hua Mu had a way to transfer her, she did not want to do so. It was not because of her so-called pride, but because she knew that she did not have the ability to protect Hua Mu now. After coming to the imperial capital, Bai Jin deeply realized one thing. The gap between her and the real sentinels could not be made up by combat instinct. The lack of a spiritual body made her always in a passive position in battle, which was also the reason why she chose to join the response department. She tried her best to improve her combat ability, and this idea became stronger after meeting Hua Mu. But it's not enough. At least not now. Even if he occasionally defeated the A-level sentinels, it was still far from enough to protect the princess and his lover. Bai Jin vaguely felt that this unwillingness and pursuit of strength was not the first time. But she didn't know if she could achieve her goal this time. Bai Jin watched Hua Mu and Hua Baiwan leave. And her arm, which had been slightly relieved by comfort, gradually began to hurt again. She couldn't help but smile bitterly, let alone becoming stronger. Now she is suffering from illness, and can't even do more basic things. After the hustle and bustle, Bai Jin felt even more empty and lonely. When he thought that Hua Mu was not in the dormitory, Bai Jin did not want to go back. At this moment, the optical brain suddenly vibrated because of the communication. Bai Jin thought it was Hua Mu, and picked up the phone without even looking. Hello, Your Highness. A familiar but obviously not Hua Mu's laughter came from the other side. Bai Jin, when did you become so distant with me and call me Your Highness? Bainu? Why are you so surprised? Didn't you save my communication code? Bai Jin calmed down after confirming that it was Benyu. Of course I saved it. I was just a little surprised that you would contact me suddenly. Not just to contact you. Benyu's hearty voice suddenly became louder, and it came not only from the headset but also from behind. I came to see you. The female guide with long fiery red hair wore a burgundy windbreaker, standing at the entrance of the native base like a flame. There was a male sentry standing next to her. It was Liang Jinshan, who had just completed his mission. Not only was Bainu the first old friend Bai Jin met again after she woke up, but he also helped her a lot in her rehabilitation. Bai Jin's friendship with her was naturally extraordinary. Benyu. She walked forward a few steps. Bainu took off his sunglasses and hugged her with open arms, giving her 2 passionate kisses on the cheek. Long time no see. Bai Jin. Long time no see. Bai Jin did not show any discomfort. She naturally let go of Bainu and looked at the person next to her. Who is this? Liang Jinshan stared at Bai Jin's face blankly, and his eyes were instantly wet. Bainu sighed and looked at him. He was also your best friend, Captain Liang Jinshan. Liang Jinshan was the only soldier demoted in that war. He had lived in self-exile for the past 5 years, carrying out the most dangerous missions, leading the hardest life, and almost never returning to the tower. Bainu saved him during a mission, and they became friends because of their connection with Bai Jin. After learning about Bai Jin's resurrection, Bainu told him about it, but probably because he felt ashamed to face Bai Jin, he didn't dare to come back to see her until today. Bai Jin felt sorry for not remembering Liang Jinshan, and stretched out his hand to him and said, I'm really sorry. I can't remember you. But I believe that we will become friends again in the future. Liang Jinshan tried hard to hold back his tears and shook Baizhen's hand. If I can still be your friend. Baizhen seemed a little surprised, but soon shook his hand back. Although I have lost my memory, I believe in my own judgment of people. Baina seemed unable to bear this heavy atmosphere, and stretched out his arms to put on the shoulders of the two men, and said casually, "How about, let's have a drink together after a long time of separation." Baizhen saw that Bainu still looked like he had no change in his attitude, and couldn't help laughing and said, "Bainu, be careful that you will be reported inaccurately if you look like this." Bainu didn't care at all. "If those paparazzi can catch up with Sheng Chao, I will completely surrender to them. But you have no right to say anything about me. Your story is much more exciting than my unfounded rumors." Baizhen had not paid attention to the news from the outside world during this period, and asked in confusion, "What's the matter?" Not only Baina knew about this matter, Liang Jinshan also heard about it, and couldn't help blushing. Baina kept the secret, evading the question. "Oh, you'll know sooner or later. We're talking about drinking, are you going?" Baizhen didn't ask further, and said apologetically, "I'm really sorry, I just had the surgery, and I'm not allowed to drink during this period." Baina looked at her in surprise. "What surgery?" Baizhen raised her left arm, and she immediately understood. "Bionic prosthesis?" "Yes." "How long has it been? How do you feel now?" Not only was Baina concerned, Liang Jinshan was also nervous. "It's not appropriate for us to stand here. Let's talk while we walk. Although I can't drink with you, it's still okay to treat you to a meal. Jinshan, you can come too." Liang Jinshan felt ashamed to face Baizhen because of his guilt, but he couldn't suppress his concern. After hesitating for a while, he finally nodded. The three of them walked and talked. When they arrived at the restaurant, Baizhen also knew that Bainu came to Sheng Chao as a member of the visiting group. "Then you come to see me today. Is it okay?" Bainu said indifferently. "What's the problem? You're not the head of the group anyway. I came here for a public-funded trip, and to meet an old friend." Baizhen knew that she was actually a very responsible person, and did not take her words seriously. "Well, let's not talk about such boring things. Your arm. Do you need my help since it hurts so much?" It was Bainu who pulled her back from the brink of death before. Baizhen believed that she had the ability to help herself, but for some reason, she didn't want to do this when she thought of Huamu's face. It was just temporary pain. As long as she took the medicine and rehabilitated according to the regulations, it was not impossible to relieve and treat it. She didn't want to trouble Baina just for such a small matter. Although they were friends, they had different standpoints after all. "Thank you, but I won't need it for now. My recovery is still good." Baina looked at Baizhen's face with a meaningful smile. "Is that the only reason? I thought." But Bainu didn't continue, and opened the menu to order. Liang Jinshan kept looking at Baizhen vaguely. Baizhen noticed his gaze, and smiled at him. "Jinshan, you should know this restaurant better than me. Why don't you recommend some signature dishes to Bainu?" Seeing Baizhen so alive was like a dream to him. The love he once had was not gone, but the strong regret had already drowned out the desire that was already out of reach. As long as he could see Baizhen alive and happy, he would have nothing else to ask for. Okay. Chapter 192 Talks. This time the talks with the Heliopolis Empire were not just routine. Their most fundamental purpose was to form a united front between the two countries on anti-terrorism. A few years ago, the mercenary corps near Lens was united into a new force by a mysterious man codenamed Origin Gamma, and by absorbing civilian armed forces and taking in refugees, it expanded into a behemoth in just a few years. The Lens region has been in constant conflict, and various armed gangs have emerged one after another. At the beginning, all countries were in a wait-and-see state until the so-called Origin Church doctrine spread with the sudden surge of terrorist attacks around the world. The International Sentinel Alliance defined the organization as an anti-human terrorist force. Just defining is one thing, and taking real action against them is another. Large-scale and long-term anti-terrorist operations require huge manpower and material resources, so the proposal has not been passed. The Heliopolis Empire and the Shang Dynasty Empire are the representative countries of the Eastern and Western hemispheres respectively, and are also permanent members of the International Sentinel Alliance and the United Grand Alliance. As the hardest-hit areas of terrorist attacks, the two countries are determined to reach an agreement on various aspects before the next proposal, so this visit took place. The head of the delegation was the Prime Minister of Heliopolis himself. There were 16 members, including the third princess. Hua Mu was mainly responsible for finance in recent years. No one could be left out of the plan involving the flow of a large amount of materials and money. The Heliopolis Empire showed enough sincerity this time, and Shang dynasty naturally reciprocated. However, national interests were not a joke, and the wrangling between the two sides was inevitable. The bottom line and rhythm of the talks almost entirely depended on the report issued by the Ministry of Finance. Hua Mu's pressure can be imagined. On the first day, both countries maintained the demeanor of great powers and ended their mutual testing in a plain and harmonious exchange. In the evening, there was a banquet to welcome the delegation, and Hua Mu finally met Bei Nu. Although it was not a competition, Hua Mu could not ignore the third princess because of Bai Zhen. I thought I would meet her when the delegation arrived, but I didn't expect that this princess who did her own thing didn't show up all day, and only came late at the dinner. Since she awakened at the age of 10, Bei Nu has entered the tower to study and train. Unlike Hua Mu, who is full of the demeanor of a noble lady, she has a military demeanor. She is 4 years older than Hua Mu. They had met each other several times when they were young, but they never became close friends due to their backgrounds and experiences. Hua Mu had to admit that Bei Nu was a very charming woman, and this charm had nothing to do with her status, nor even her beautiful appearance. It was her personal charm that emanated from the inside out. Confident, free and easy, and powerful. Although Hua Mu had lost most of his guiding abilities due to Luna's disappearance, he could still clearly feel how powerful Bei Nu was as a guide. Objects resemble their owners, and vice versa. Bei Nu stood out among the crowd like a bright and fiery phoenix. Such a rival made Hua Mu feel complicated for a while. No, she definitely had no intention of competing with him. After all, Bai Zhen had been hers for a long time. So why would she compete with him? Hua Mu tried not to care about Bei Nu, and communicated with every guest who came to chat appropriately. Unexpectedly, Bei Nu, wearing a black evening dress, came up with a glass of wine after she finished talking with the Minister of Defense. Hua Mu straightened her back, and braced herself as if preparing for a tough battle. Long time no see, Prince Hua Mu. The last time they met was 5 years ago, when Hua Mu became a princess. But at that time, they didn't have much communication, and Hua Mu didn't pay special attention to her. Long time no see, Princess Bei Nu. Bei Nu smiled, with deep meaning in her eyes. After talking about state affairs for a whole day, is it boring? As if to show off her absence from work, the third princess of Heliopolis showed a childish smile. Hua Mu didn't pretend, and said with some leeway, "After all, it's work. I wonder where the princess went today." "Of course I went to work." Hua Mu raised her eyebrows, and Bei Nu explained, "Although I am also a member of the visiting group this time, I actually have other tasks to do, so I will not participate in the meeting. That is not what I am good at." It is understandable that there is a task to do, but what is the purpose of telling her the task specifically? Hua Mu couldn't guess Bei Nu's intention for the time being, so he could only agree. "I heard from the leader a long time ago that you are a very good guide, Bei Nu, and it must be a very important task that was entrusted to you." Bei Nu seemed very happy to be praised by the leader. It is really flattering to be praised by the leader of Shang dynasty. But this mission is indeed very important, and I alone cannot complete it. I have specially applied for an assistant from your country, and I have obtained your approval. Hua Mu's heart was alarmed, and there was no need to guess who the assistant she was talking about was. "I hope our assistant can help you." "Can't ask. If you ask, you lose." "I won't doubt this. After all, Bai Zhen is a very good soldier. Speaking of which, I recently heard a very interesting rumor, and this rumor seems to be related to you, Your Highness. It's good to hear it. It's worth her efforts. She will never raise the flag of marriage again. But because of this, she must show her love well. There is an idiom in the Shang dynasty called a smoke without fire." Bei Nu opened his eyes wide. "Does it mean that there is no such thing? Many people will understand what she means at first glance, and it may be better understood if she changes the way she says it. There is no wind without waves." Bei Nu couldn't help but laugh softly. She really didn't expect that this seemingly well-behaved and ladylike princess would be so bold and straightforward. Is it funny? The place where the two stood was not conspicuous, and the conversation between the princesses was naturally enough to make people avoid it. Hua Mu saw that Bei Nu no longer concealed it, and naturally pretended to be funny. I didn't expect that your highness is such an interesting person, which really surprised me. Surprised? Bainu looked at her with a smile, and there was no hostility in his amber eyes. You don't have to be wary of me, Major General Bai, and I will never develop that kind of relationship without your consent. The short pause in the middle made Hua Mu think that it was the surrender of her rival, but she didn't expect that the other party's second half of the words would make her almost drop her jaw. What do you mean by without her consent? And is it really okay to talk about such a topic in this occasion? How can the princess of the Heliopolis Empire be so frivolous? I don't quite understand what you mean. Bainu pursed his lips and smiled softly, and said with a hint of ambiguity, if there is time, I can explain, or show you. Speaking of which, compared to a well-built female sentinel like Major General Bai, I actually prefer a delicate and weak noble lady like you. Hua Mu finally failed to maintain her perfect etiquette smile. It was incredible. To be more thorough, she stared at Bainu in amazement. Was she being teased by her rival? No. Can he still be called a rival? Hua Mu was shocked for 2 or 3 seconds. Luckily, she had not been a princess for 5 years in vain. She soon calmed down. I didn't expect you to be such a humorous person. Bainu shrugged. It's okay if you think it's humorous. It's a pity that I have a mission this time, and can't communicate with you in depth. When you come to our country one day, I will definitely do my best to be a good host. Hua Mu has indeed discovered that Bainu's temperament is somewhat similar to her good friend Catherine. But maybe it's because she grew up in a tower, compared to Catherine's inner noble lady, who couldn't be concealed no matter how bold she was. Bainu has more ruffian spirit. But it's not vulgar or obscene, just right to be classified as humorous. I don't know if it's because her beautiful appearance adds too much points to her. Maybe there will be a chance. But Hua Mu doesn't have much energy to think about the charm of her rival. Being teased not only makes her feel that she has lost a game, but also makes her feel more threatened, compared to the talks that will gradually reveal the sharp edges of both parties. Hua Mu is more worried about Bai Jin's mission to accompany Bainu. This guy even flirts with her, so there is no reason for him not to flirt with Bai Jin. Others are playboys, but this is simply a playboy princess. She must contact Bai Jin immediately when she returns tonight. Bainu's arrival brought Bai Jin a little joy of reuniting with a friend, but the additional mission that followed also made her realize that the other party's responsibility this time was very heavy. The tower sent her and Liang Jinshan to assist Bainu, but Bai Jin did not have much confidence. Compared with the 2 S-level sentinels and guides, her strength was really weak, but she didn't want to back down. This matter was not only related to the success of this meeting, but also to the safety of His Highness and His Majesty. The delegation received a video of the terrorist attack threat from the Origin Church on the eve of the mission. As the first important task of the response department, Bai Jin devoted herself to it. All the routes that the delegation passed during the 10-day visit must be checked repeatedly with great caution. She ran around with Liang Jinshan and Bainu all day today. Even at night, she repeatedly confirmed the safety hazards in various places and added protective equipment. The seriousness of the superior is a disaster to the subordinates in a sense. It was midnight after the meeting of the response department ended. This intensity was not a big deal for Bai Jin, but the pain in her left arm was too torturous. She rarely showed some fatigue after finishing work, but the sudden ringing of the ringing made her energetic. It was the exclusive ringing tone she set for Hua Mu. Your Highness! She stopped taking off half of her clothes and hurriedly put on the headphones. Are you asleep? I'm sorry to contact you at this time. Not yet. I just finished the meeting. Why are you so late? Your Highness. Hua Mu had just finished talking with her mother and ministers. Although she knew it was late, she just couldn't suppress her impulse. I want to hear your voice. Chapter 193 Dance. Your Highness, may I have the honor of inviting you to dance? A handsome young man with short brown hair invited Hua Mu to the opening dance in a gentlemanly manner. Earl Harris, one of the hottest new nobles in Heliopolis today, the huge fortune and title left to him by his father made him a world-class young rich man. As a member of this visiting group, he showed an unusual enthusiasm for Hua Mu from the first day. In principle, marriages between countries are basically prohibited, but marriages between nobles are not uncommon. In most cases, one party gives up the right of inheritance and nationality to marry into another country. And generally speaking, the party who gives up the right of inheritance is not the first heir in the family. But Harris is not like this at all. Not only does he have the title of Earl, but he also has a significant influence in the business field in the empire. So it is basically impossible for him to give up everything. Of course, he obviously didn't seem to have such an idea. After all, a short and passionate love affair with a foreign princess is enough to become an unforgettable romantic experience and topic of conversation. To be honest, this situation is not the first time Hua Mu has encountered. She didn't want to discuss the slightly open social relationships between some nobles, but she herself didn't want to get involved in such relationships at all. I thought that I had never thought about the 5 years when I lost Baizhen, let alone now that Baizhen has returned. However, considering the other party's identity and status, it didn't seem like he had any malicious intent. So she always responded generously and appropriately. Earl Harris was the only person in the delegation who was suitable to invite her to the opening dance. And Hua Mu certainly wouldn't refuse. Today was the 5th day of the visit. After touring the cave-top Crystal Palace with a history of more than 2,000 years, a dance was held in the main Crystal Hall in the evening. Baizhen, as Benyu's assistant, naturally came along. But he didn't enter the dance because he was responsible for the outer security. The Crystal Palace on the cave roof is located on Yinji Mountain in the suburbs of the imperial capital. It was built inside the mountain and survived various wars. As a royal family with a long history, the royal family of the Shang dynasty successfully avoided the invaders' searches here during several wars in which the capital fell. However, these historical relics have now become one of the attractions, and are open to civilians on weekdays, becoming a source of income for the royal family. The Crystal Palace is naturally not made of crystal, but it is named because the quartz ore contained in Yinji Mountain itself has become an embellishment of the palace. After entering the Electric Age, the palace here shines more brilliantly, and it is almost a must-see attraction for every traveler to the capital of Shengqiao. The crystal ore in the main hall is the most concentrated, and the quality is the best. Under the unique lighting system, it looks like a fairy palace. Hua Mu wore a white dress evening gown. Elegant, gentle, mature and generous. She danced with the tall and handsome Earl Harris on the dance floor, and they really looked like a fairy couple. At the end of the song, there was polite applause all around, and Harris leaned down to kiss the back of Hua Mu's hand, thanking her. The opening dance was over. Then all the gentlemen could start inviting the ladies, and vice versa. Hua Mu was also invited to the second dance soon. Harris tactfully withdrew, but he asked Hua Mu for a date before he left. I wonder if your highness will have time later. I am very interested in the culture of the Shang dynasty. I heard that you have extraordinary literary attainments. I would like to learn from you. It was really an old-fashioned and overly conventional aristocratic code. It's been a busy day today, and we have to go to Shinzhou tomorrow. I think both the Earl and I should have enough energy to deal with the next matter. Hua Mu couldn't help but complain in his heart, but he still maintained a polite smile. Although Harris was a little disappointed, he was not discouraged, and he didn't pester him too much. Your Highness is right. Then I can only hope that I can have the opportunity to ask you for advice when I am not so busy in the future. Hua Mu neither accepted nor refused, but just smiled at him. Although Benyu was also at the party, he did not enter the dance floor like the others. He sat in a hidden corner and leisurely enjoyed the wine and food. Harris did not invite other dance partners, and walked to where Benyu was alone. Your Highness, don't you want to dance? Harris did not invite him right away because he knew that he was doomed to fail. The process of pursuing Benyu had never been smooth, and now he could only let it go. Benyu crossed her legs, squinted at him, and drank a sip of red wine comfortably. Going dancing is not as fun as watching you laugh. Harris did not show any embarrassment, but just smiled helplessly. Will watching me being rejected make you so happy? Benyu shrugged. You really think highly of yourself? For this guy who claims to be a love saint, Benyu has no good impression, but he can't say how disgusted he is. If I have to describe it, it's probably physical disgust. This world is like this. Some people have no idea what's going on in their heads, taking promiscuity as fraternity, and cheating with a clear conscience. Others might be moved by his appearance, status, and his gentleness and affection, which he believed in himself. But Benyu knew that Hua Mu was definitely not among them. After all, this guy didn't have big breasts. Can you take this as a compliment? Benyu felt his spine tremble when he saw her tender and affectionate eyes. He really didn't know what kind of person could just express his love to another princess, and then come to attack his own princess. And he didn't hide it at all. Where did he get his confidence from? Seeing this clown, Benyu had endless complaints. You really take yourself seriously. Your Highness is already in a relationship. Aren't you afraid of getting beaten? Harris smiled slightly. Are you talking about that female guard? She is indeed very attractive. If your Highness doesn't mind, I am willing to work with him. He actually said out loud what she had secretly thought of. This man is so shameless that it is outrageous. She definitely has a better chance. After all, those two are both interested in women. Harris is nothing. Then you can't stay any longer. This guy is really disgusting. Excuse me, Your Highness. Are you feeling unwell? Beta nodded seriously. Because I talked to you for a while, I feel a little nauseous now. I need to go and vomit. As the third princess, she could not inherit the throne anyway, so she lived her life as she pleased, without caring about the noble's face. Beta came out to get some fresh air, and also went to find Bai Jin and Liang Jinshin. Because of her mission, she could refuse the invitation to dance. Liang Jinshin was outside the main hall, and Bai Jin was on duty in a place further outside. Yinji Mountain is a famous tourist attraction. There are many businesses around it. Even though the Crystal Palace has been reserved by the royal family, it is still very lively from the middle of the mountain. The cordon was very far away, but Bai Jin still did not dare to be careless. Just as she was checking the surveillance projection of the optical computer, Beta's approach caught her attention. Benyu? It's really different when on alert. I have deliberately concealed my breath. Beta handed her a piece of bread. Jinshin said you haven't had dinner yet. I gave you one inside. Bai Jin did not refuse. Thank you. These days are very peaceful. I began to suspect that the attack notice was just a scare. The more so, the more we can't be careless. The visit is only halfway through. I know. But it's a pity. The opportunity to dance in the Crystal Palace is so rare. If you can also participate, I will definitely invite you. Bai Jin was a little embarrassed. I don't remember if I can dance. Don't worry, you will definitely be able to dance. There are lessons in the tower. You will remember it when you start dancing. But there should be a lot of people who invite you to dance. There is nothing unusual going on now, so you can have fun. Beta looked uninterested. Alas, the people I want to invite are very busy, and the people who invite me are not good enough, so I'd rather come out and relax. Bai Jin was a little curious. Who do you want to invite? The queen, the leader, and the princess? What a shocking answer. Beta was completely targeting the royal family. You really haven't changed. Beta didn't comment. But you won't be jealous at all. Right? I told you Hua Mu was super busy at night. Harris even invited her to the first dance. Bai Jin had seen Count Harris from a distance during the 5 days he worked as a security guard. Although he did have some subtle feelings when he saw his enthusiasm for Hua Mu, he was not jealous. It's a dance after all. Whether before or after losing his memory, Bai Jin was as calm as ever. Just as Benyu was thinking this, he suddenly felt something behind him. Bai Jin obviously noticed the situation and turned around at the same time. Benyu rolled his eyes and put his hand on her shoulder. Your Highness, why are you here? Hua Mu was looking at the two people who were arm in arm, with Earl Harris standing beside him. Come out for some fresh air. What if he didn't come? Would he let Bai Jin have a tryst with Benyu in the dark? Bai Jin broke away from Benyu's physical contact without leaving a trace, took a few steps forward and said respectfully, If you go for a walk, please bring your guards with you. This is not a safe place. Hua Mu looked at her. Then you can walk with me. Bai Jin wanted to agree, but she couldn't leave her post without permission. Your Highness, I have a mission to accomplish. Isn't your personal guard with you? When Hua Mu met Bai Jin, she rarely brought Bai Qin with her. It was a little difficult for the child to face Bai Jin now. Forget it. I'll go back then. Hua Mu just wanted to come and see Bai Jin, but there was not only Harris, but also Benyu. She couldn't be alone with Bai Jin, and would be very angry. She felt bad just thinking about it. Out of sight. Out of mind. Princess Benyu, come back with me. The Prime Minister seems to have something to ask you. But she would never leave the two of them alone. Benyu saw what Hua Mu was thinking at a glance, and didn't mind her vigilance at all. In that case, I will go back with His Highness. Harris didn't know what he was thinking of, and said at this time, since the two princesses are here to accompany you, I won't spoil the fun. It's just right to see the night view around Yinji Mountain. I hope Major General Bai can lead the way for me. Benyu and Hua Mu couldn't help but curse at the same time in their hearts. Bai Jin was very calm. I'm sorry, Earl Harris. I just said that I have official business, and I'm not familiar with the surrounding area, and the scope of the tour is very limited at present. If you really want to visit, I will arrange a guide for you. Harris seemed a little regretful, but his intention to visit did not seem to be empty. Then I'll trouble you. Okay. But please be careful not to exceed the limit. Nothing is more important than safety. Harris nodded in agreement. Of course. Chapter 194 Imperial University. Baizhen watched Hua Mu and Binya leave, and then assigned a tour guide to Harris. In today's society, the night is even more lively than the day. There were only a few lights on Yinji Mountain, but the lights were brightly lit halfway up the mountain. Baizhen patrolled between the guard posts, and after about half an hour, she suddenly received a call from the soldier who led Harris on the tour. Baizhen immediately called the Hummingbird, and it took only 3 minutes to arrive at the scene. Harris was standing in front of a strange woman and confronting the guards. This scene was really weird. Baizhen frowned and looked at the woman, who appeared from nowhere behind him. He asked in a deep voice, "What happened?" "Major General." The guards were relieved when they saw Baizhen coming. "Major General Bai. This girl just accidentally broke in here." But the guard said they would detain her for questioning. A member of the guard said anxiously, "Earl Harris, we are just following the rules. Even if we follow the rules, we shouldn't use force on such a weak girl. There is no gentlemanly manners at all." The weak girl still had tears on her face, and she looked very pitiful. She shivered and leaned on Harris's back. "Excuse me, young lady, why did you accidentally enter here? There should be warnings and alarms when you touch the cordon. Didn't you hear it? Can you show me your ID?" Baizhen was unmoved, and acted in a businesslike manner. Harris said excitedly, "She is just an ordinary civilian. Sir, I'm asking about her. Not you. Now activate the yellow alert status. Please go back to the palace first." Harris's face, which had always been smiling, showed a rare trace of anger. "I didn't expect that this is the way you treat guests in your Shang dynasty." Baizhen felt something strange. "You are a little emotional now. I will have someone take you back to rest." "No need. I am here today, and will never watch you bully the weak like this." "My lord, please don't do this for me. I will cooperate with the investigation. It is true that I accidentally broke into this place in a panic. I didn't know that His Majesty was traveling, and I didn't hear the alarm." The woman stopped Harris in a panic, as if she was afraid that he would conflict with the white pillow people. "Go check the cordon." Baizhen instructed a soldier beside him to verify the woman's confession, and then personally went forward to verify her identity. "Miss, please open the ID column in the light brain." Although the woman was a little timid, she did not resist, and honestly opened the light brain for Baizhen to check. Sisley, 22 years old, a college student at Imperial Capital University, with a clean background and no criminal history. Baizhen roughly glanced at the woman's identity information, and the person who went to check the cordon also sent a message at this time. The device of the cordon that the woman broke into had a system failure, and could not issue warnings or alarms. "What do you think? I said it was all coincidence and misunderstanding." Harris's words made Baizhen smile. "The Earl is right." She looked at Sisley, and her tone softened a lot. Miss Sisley said that she entered by mistake in a panic. Did she encounter any accident? Sisley lowered his eyes, and shook his head silently, showing an expression that was difficult to speak. Baizhen had already noticed that she was wearing Harris's coat, and her clothes were a little messy under the coat. "Baizhen, since Mishi is not a suspect, can we let her go?" Harris had been protecting Sisley as a protector, showing a heroic spirit that was enough to make the girl fall in love with him. "Are you the first person to find her?" Harris raised his chin. "Yes." Baizhen stopped asking questions, nodded and said, "I'm very sorry to scare Miss Shi. It's getting late now. I'll send someone to take you back to school." "No. I can do it myself." Sisley showed some hesitation and panic, and there was no falsehood in his face. But Baizhen's attitude was very tough, and Harris felt that she would not give in on this matter. "Miss Shi, since Major General Bai said so, he must keep his promise. This is my communication code. I will contact you." He came as a guest, and it was indeed inappropriate to intervene more. However, it was really against his chivalry to let such a beautiful and weak girl worry. "Major General Bai, you will send her back to school safely, right?" "Of course. Of course. Not only send her back to school, but also her family background and interpersonal relationships will be checked clearly. Treating low-probability events as coincidences has never been NATA's purpose." Baizhen looked at Sisley's back as he left, and for some reason, he felt a familiar chill. The pain in his left arm became more intense. The airspace of 3rd Avenue has been confirmed to be normal. The airspace at the junction of 3rd and 4th Avenues has been confirmed to be normal. The landing point at Imperial University is ready. No abnormalities at all monitoring points. The A1 pilot aircraft is about to take off. Baijin stood on the latest single-person aircraft, the Hummingbird F-27, and confirmed the safety of the airspace along the way for the last time before the pilot aircraft took off. The scenes on the air defense boats at each monitoring point were transmitted to Baijin's eyes by the eye mask connected to the optical brain. Because of the airspace alert, even the traffic on the elevated suspension lanes was much less. The Imperial University had long been surrounded by police cars and military air defense boats. In addition to her, Liang Jinshan and other response department personnel also confirmed the safety of each section of the road. Although the main purpose of this visit was to discuss the matters of the Anti-Terrorism United Front, it was a secret mission after all, and the various practices of the public visit were indispensable. From the second day on, the delegation was accompanied by the Queen or Princess herself to tour and inspect. Each trip was really huge. Benyu came with the delegation as a security consultant this time. Although she is a princess, she is at the forefront of security operations every day. As an assistant, Baijin is also the same. Because of losing his memory, Baijin went through 2 months of intensive training before returning to work. Perhaps because the qualities he had as a soldier left a memory in his body, everything went incredibly smoothly. Even Baijin was surprised at his proficiency in using various instruments, and his precise and quick response during the battle. The A1 pilot aircraft has begun to enter the airspace of 3rd Avenue. Please prepare the area. Baijin immediately turned around upon receiving the notification, and prepared to meet the aircraft with the section manager. The travel measures of the delegation adopted the most typical cup and ball security. That is, sending identical vehicles from the starting point to the destination at regular intervals, to confuse potential attackers. As for which vehicle the target person is in, even most security personnel don't know. So no matter which aircraft it is, it must be treated with caution. Baijin quickly arrived at the designated location, and the air patrol in the airspace of 3rd Avenue was already prepared. Unlike the small, fast, and powerful Hummingbird used by Baijin, the patrolman rode on a relatively bulky air motorcycle. However, the air motorcycle can improve the driver's shooting accuracy, and the requirements for the driver are greatly reduced, making it a more popular tool for guards than the Hummingbird. The speed of the aircraft was not fast. Baijin followed behind slowly, while Liang Jinshan led the way in front. Both of them were on high alert. With Liang Jinshan's wide area detection ability, he could know the general situation within 1 kilometer. The condition of Baijin's arm had improved slightly. At least the pain had been greatly reduced. She had adapted to falling asleep in pain. But there were new troubles. The dream she had had recently made her feel a little uneasy, although she basically didn't remember what she dreamed about after waking up. The strong sense of loss and nostalgia was really tormenting. She felt that she had forgotten something. Or more accurately, she had lost something. Baijin, are you okay? Nothing happened along the way, and the A1 pilot aircraft landed safely on the roof of the tallest teaching building of the Imperial Capital University. Of course, the mission was not yet completed, and the moment of landing was the most likely time for an attack. Liang Jinshan and Baijin remained on guard until the dome of the landing point was completely closed, and the aircraft lowered the stairs, and Hua Mu and the members of the visiting group got off the aircraft one after another. Yes, although in most cases the target will not be placed in the first team, there are occasional situations where the opposite is true. And today is obviously such a situation. Liang Jinshan and Baijin have already come down from the Hummingbird, and joined Bei Nu, who came out of the aircraft. As soon as Bei Nu got off the plane, he felt that Baijin's face looked a little strange, because his lips were bloodless, and he looked abnormally pale. Baijin, are you okay? I'm fine. Baijin didn't understand what was wrong with her. The closer she got to the Imperial Capital University, the colder she felt, and the pain in her left arm became more and more severe. But rather than feeling uncomfortable, she felt that this was more like the body's warning of crisis. Jinshan, Benyu, I think something is wrong. Speaking of Imperial University, she thought of Sisley, whom she met a few days ago. But the results of the investigation were not abnormal at all. The girl must have said that she should be classified as an excellent elite. She had excellent grades and served as the president of the student union. She was also the student representative who gave flowers to the visiting group this time. The background was as clean as a piece of white paper. But it was just a coincidence. Everything was just a coincidence. Baden knew that Baijin was a very powerful person, and he couldn't help but frown and said, "Did you notice anything unusual? Today is the 7th day of the visit, and the next 2 days are to visit the inner tower and the organization. Today is undoubtedly the last good opportunity for the Origin Church. But after such a coincidence, everything is calm. This is an abnormal event. Although some preparations have been made, but the heart is still very uneasy. Earl Harris also came from the plane at this time, probably seeing that Baizhen's face was not very good, and asked with concern, "Major General, are you feeling unwell? You have worked hard in the escort work during this period." He took the initiative to show his goodwill. Baina turned his face away with disgust, but Baizhen could not ignore such good intentions. "Thank you for your concern." She remembered that Harris had exchanged communication codes with Sisley, and asked tentatively, "Mr. Earl, I suddenly remembered Miss Sisley, whom I met a few nights ago when I came to Imperial University. Are you still in touch with her?" Harris seemed a little surprised that she would mention Sisley, but he showed a very happy expression. "You are talking about Miss Sisley. She asked me a lot of etiquette questions because she was going to present flowers to the Prime Minister and the Queen today. Such an excellent and serious girl. Fortunately, I didn't offend her due to misunderstanding at that time." Chapter 195. The Bomb Maniac. As always, nobles are usually free to choose whether to study in the tower or not. The expectations for their children are different, and the choices will be different. There are many nobles like Benyu who were sent to the tower since childhood, but there are more nobles like Harris who receive private education. The most obvious difference between the two is that they are sensitive to crisis situations. Harris has the title of Earl and the honorary title of Diplomatic Ambassador, but he is essentially a businessman. The biggest reason for bringing him with the delegation this time is that Harris intends to set up a fund for anti-terrorism operations. If they could get donations from him, the financial pressure on the government would be greatly reduced. Considering these aspects, Baizhen certainly did not have any dissatisfaction with his weak sense of crisis. The visit to the Imperial University was the most difficult trip to ensure security during this visit. After all, unlike other visits to buildings or scenery, the original purpose of this trip was to communicate with students. Baizhen had proposed to cancel the visit and also proposed to change the person who presented flowers, but was ultimately rejected by the Queen. Baizhen finished his brief conversation with Harris, frowned and looked at Hua Ke, who was walking in front of the team with Hua Mu. Feeling uneasy and puzzled, the leader rarely appeared recently, but today he was accompanying the Queen. Similarly, Bai Qin, who was only a shadow guard before, also followed the team, protecting Hua Mu at the closest distance. The security measures have indeed been improved to the extreme, but if we consider the means of the Origin cult's terrorist attacks, such measures are still not reliable enough. Over the past few years, the Empire has developed security equipment that can detect human bombs, and has developed a program that combines prevention and control. It can be used as long as it is downloaded directly to the citizens' personal optical computers. However, this program has only been promoted in the country, and has not entered other countries. It is said that because it is derived from a virus called Troy, it is prevented and resisted by various countries. The delegation arrived at the venue quickly, and then there will be 2 hours of speeches and 1 hour of Q&A interaction. The speakers included the Queen, the Princess, and the 2 Prime Ministers. Every student and teacher who could enter the venue had to go through a strict security check, and there were sentries above level A at each entrance and exit to sense. Baizhen carefully observed the more than 2,000 energetic faces in the venue, processing a large amount of complex information in her mind. Her high concentration made her senses extremely sharp today, and her thinking was extremely calm. She could feel more than the guards could, and many details appeared in her mind. Everyone's expressions, whispers, and body movements were divided into frames, and Baizhen read the meaning behind them. Baizhen's biggest suspect was of course Sisley, although there would be some onlookers every time he visited. Only Sisley actually came into contact with the visiting group. However, from the results of the investigation, she was not only not a suspect, but also a victim. That night, the other party was in a panic because of harassment from 2 male students in the same school. Later, the 2 male students were arrested and interrogated, and no suspicious things were found about Sisley. Could it really be such a coincidence? Baizhen didn't believe it. But not only did the investigation results show no suspicion, even now, neither Sisley nor the other students present had any characteristics of terrorist attackers. Baizhen, what's wrong with you? When Liang Jinshan noticed Baizhen's abnormality, she was already emitting a cold chill. The 2 of them were standing very close to the podium, and the one who was giving the speech was the Prime Minister of the Heliopolis Empire. Baijin seemed to have suddenly woken up, and looked at him in horror. Baijin? Liang Jinshan has been worried about Baijin since she said those words. You look very bad. Do you really not need to rest? I'm fine. Beinu has confirmed the security details again. Don't worry too much. It's good to be alert. But in Liang Jinshan's opinion, Baijin is obviously a little too nervous. Maybe it's because this mission is too important. Maybe it's because Baijin has lost his spiritual body. Or maybe it's because Hua Mu is also the person threatened this time. Baijin has been in a state of high mental tension. The accumulated pressure seems to have reached its limit today. The hidden danger can only appear in this venue now. Jinshan, do you really not feel any problem? The fact that Baijin can't feel anything abnormal is what worries her the most. No, perhaps it's because she feels it but can't find it. This venue currently gathers the most important people from Heliopolis and Shengqiao Empire. If something happens to them, it won't be surprising even if it changes the current world situation. Isn't that too careless? No, the highest level of security measures have been adopted. Nothing unusual has been found so far, and every student who enters here has passed the security check. There will be no loopholes. Has every student who enters the venue passed the security check? Of course. Then, what about the visiting group? Baijin, do you know? What are you talking about? Let's not talk about the routine customs check when arriving on the first day. Every time important foreign guests are subject to security checks, this is really a violation of international etiquette. Besides, the two sides originally held talks on the issue of the anti-terrorism united front. So how could they suspect the members of the delegation without reason? I have roughly scanned the members of the delegation, especially Harris, and I haven't found anything unusual so far. Liang Jinshan was interrupted by Benyu, who had already confirmed the details and returned to the venue. It was of course the most appropriate thing for her, who was also a member of the delegation, to do this. Is this okay? Liang Jinshan was a little worried, although Harris was very angry. It was for everyone's safety after all. The Prime Minister and the Queen have both taken the lead. Who can say anything? As the Princess of Heliopolis, Benyu naturally had the confidence to do so. But this result still could not eliminate Baijin's worries. At this moment, the Prime Minister finished his speech, and Hua Mu walked to the front of the stage. In the past few days, although Baijin was in the same team as her, they had basically no chance to meet and communicate, and only relied on short communications to comfort each other. Baijin stood behind Hua Mu as a personal guard, and attracted a lot of attention. As long as an S-level sentinel does not care about his own life, he can protect a person's safety in almost any situation. Baijin has always known about Baijin's existence, and also knows that she is her sister. However, every time she sees her, she will show subtle panic and avoidance, and she has never had the opportunity to talk to Baijin. Of course, in addition to Baijin's reasons, she also has some unspeakable thoughts. In short, she is jealous of this sister, no matter from which aspect. Protecting the princess should be her duty. But now, she doesn't have the ability. Not being able to protect her lover is such a painful thing, and the jealousy that arises from it makes her suffer even more. Perhaps, this is also the reason why she is so anxious today. There is obviously nothing else she can do. But she can't even do the security work well. Baijin, I think you'd better take a rest. Beinu felt her mental instability and her physical weakness. This is my order as the person in charge of this security work. Beinu and Liang Jinshan are the main persons in charge of this work, and Baijin is just an assistant who participated as a member of the response department. I think this is better. Even Liang Jinshan agreed. Baijin was disappointed and his feelings were shaken. Then I'll go outside to get some fresh air. I'll leave this to you. Baijin tried his best to calm himself down. When he left the venue, he felt heartbroken when he saw Hua Mu's worried eyes. But strangely, the chill in his body and the pain in his left arm were relieved after leaving the scene. Maybe he was too nervous. While thinking this way, Baijin continued to check the security situation at various places. But she gradually discovered something strange. Rather than leaving the venue to relieve her nervousness, it was the distance from the venue that affected her body's abnormality. The closer she got to the venue, the more intense the pain and coldness became. It was definitely not caused by nervousness. If it was indeed the body's reaction to the crisis, then it was obvious where the most dangerous place was. The moment this thought flashed through Baijin's mind, his body had already run towards the venue. But what exactly was the problem? Both the students and the visiting group had been inspected. Not to mention the assessment of the security personnel themselves. If there was a spirit, she might be able to know the reason for these reactions. But now she could only rely on reasoning. The abnormality of the body began to appear halfway, and it became stronger as she got closer to the Imperial University, and reached its peak after entering the venue. The safety hazard was in the venue but could not be found. So the other party must have used a method that had never been used before. Baizhen rushed back to the venue as quickly as possible, and the speech had already reached the stage of presenting flowers, when he saw Sisley walking towards the podium step by step. The alarm bells in Baizhen's mind went wild. It was her, that was her, no, not just her. Sisley's appearance was not accidental. Even some of the intruders, who appeared in other previous trips, were also in the plan. As long as one person succeeds, the attack can be carried out. But this is a very suspicious behavior. For example, without Harris's support, Sisley is likely to be detained during the visit. It is a plan that there is no problem even if the contact person is detained, then the key lies in the contact person. But Harris passed the security check, and she did not feel abnormal when she approached Harris. Thinking further from the principle of security equipment, the threat could not be detected because the concentration of the so-called gamma particles was too low. Under normal circumstances, such a low concentration of gamma particles cannot cause great damage. But what if a large number of low-concentration gamma particles are used as bullets to form a powerful mother bomb? Is the mother bomb Sisley? No. There is no need to contact Harris or the members of the visiting group. The mother bomb is Harris. This is the most effective way to ensure the success of the attack. It is also the most effective way to cause panic and shock. The moment of the attack must be captured on camera. It is too late. This distance is too far to reach. And even if she can remind her, she has no power to change reality. The bomb is ready to explode at any time. Chapter 196 Return. Harris looked at Sisley, who was different from the embarrassment and panic of the past few days. Her beautiful face showed confidence and vigor. He couldn't help but smile at her. He couldn't help but feel pity for the beautiful flowers. That was his nature. But there was nothing wrong with it. Wasn't it? He was sincere to every woman, and was confident that he could bring them happiness. As long as it was consensual, what was wrong with it? He always maintained a gentleman's demeanor, and never forced anyone. Although it was inevitable that he would make them sad sometimes, that was not his intention. It would be nice if everyone could live in peace. Sisley seemed to have noticed his gaze, and smiled sweetly at him. Although he did not win the favor of the princess, he had an unexpected gain. Such a pure and beautiful woman was enough to attract his heart and soul. Before going back, he might have to create some opportunities to be alone with Miss She. Harris suddenly felt a burst of heat. But this heat was not caused by the infatuation caused by the sweet smile. He was confident that his self-control was not so bad. And this heat was not the kind of physiological reaction that was unbearable and comfortable, but Harris was struck by great pain, and he instinctively grabbed his throat and knelt down on the podium. The students in the audience seemed unable to understand what was happening for a moment, and it took about 2 or 3 seconds before a commotion began. The guards had already rushed to the stage to protect the queen and others, and medical staff immediately came to help Harris with treatment. But no one retreated, because this was different from the usual terrorist attack mode, and most people only thought that this was the Earl's personal illness, or that it was an attack only against him personally. How is Count Harris? Hua Mu did not choose to avoid in this situation, but took the initiative to step forward to care about Harris's situation. Being under the camera, she had to remain calm, elegant and gentle. But the moment she approached, a strong sense of crisis attacked her. Harris's painful screams filled the entire venue, amplified by the loudspeaker, as if it was a sound from hell. Miss. At the same time, a figure like a giant wolf rushed from the entrance farthest from the venue. Frost spread along the ground and walls throughout the venue in an instant. Hollow ice pillars rose from the ground, isolating each student in the audience. The sound of the ice surface rubbing against each other made people feel very uncomfortable. Everyone covered their ears, and endured the sudden cold and discomfort caused by the noise. In the blurred vision, a nimble figure leaped over the icicles swiftly. Is it a wolf or a person? Hua Mu couldn't tell. But there was no need to tell. The warm tears had already told her the answer. Her white pillow was finally back. The female sentinel almost fell from the sky, and blocked the princess with her body without hesitation. A thick ice wall appeared behind her, isolating Harris from everyone else. Baizhen. Don't. The frightening memory was revived by this familiar scene. Hua Mu hugged Baijin tightly. The strong light instantly illuminated every corner of the venue. But there was no explosion. It was not the light produced by the bomb, but the energy released by a pure black unicorn. The power released by the S-level sentinels and guides was enough to produce huge fluctuations. Not only was the carrier Harris affected, but even their own guards felt very uncomfortable. Although Huachu was also an S-level guide, she was inevitably at a disadvantage in the face of the increase in power generated by the combination. Just as she staggered and was about to fall, a slightly cool and thin body held her firmly in his arms. Godless realm. The other party's usual calm tone came to her ears, but this time it seemed to be accompanied by a sigh. Then, the movements of the white wolf, the black unicorn and Harris all subsided. The venue was in a mess, but it was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop, whether it was the sentinels or the guides. They all lost their abilities at this moment, and the human bomb was quelled. The ice evaporated, leaving behind a group of students looking at each other in bewilderment. What happened? Almost everyone was paralyzed because they could not think, until the leader's cold voice sounded. The crisis has been temporarily resolved. Take Earl Harris down for treatment. After eliminating the gamma particles from all students, examine them one by one, search the Imperial Capital University, and find the suspect. None of the students had the characteristics of a criminal, just because they were both accomplices and victims. The real criminals implemented the plan by contacting or inciting them, and the students themselves were completely unaware. So even the final interrogation of the leader was ineffective. It is certain that the criminals of the terrorist attack are in this university, and there is a high possibility that they are teachers. The leader's orders are above everything else, except the Queen's orders. Even if they are unable to think, even if they have temporarily lost their abilities, the soldiers of the Guard Regiment still obeyed the orders and began to act in an orderly manner. Alung! Baijin! Compared to the others who were stunned, the princess and the queen were the first to come to their senses because of their concern for their loved ones. Baijin was weakened by the sudden activation of a power that she had not used for a long time. The only thing to be thankful for was that she did not fall into the eternal night due to the influence of the godless realm. Of course, on the other hand, Hua Mu could not comfort her. Miss, that's great. Baijin's dark eyes were filled with tears. He gazed at Hua Mu greedily and tenderly. He raised his fingers with trembling hands and touched her cheek. Baijin, Baijin. Hua Mu had already cried without any image. Even if she was facing the camera, even if she was facing the public, even if she was facing everyone, she didn't want to hide it anymore. Her pain, her joy, her love. She didn't want to hide them anymore. The princess lowered her head and kissed the female sentry's lips. Baijin didn't refuse. The sweetness, bitterness and care made her hug Hua Mu tightly, responding to the past with unprecedented enthusiasm. This is her destination. She doesn't want to talk about any big principles. It's not an exaggeration to say that her life exists for this. A Zheng. Only Huachu felt Hua Jing's physical condition. He was originally holding her body and giving orders in a calm voice, but he was completely relying on her for support. Fragile, slender, not wanting the sentinel's body at all. It protected her again and again, as if it would not change even at the end of life. Such a hateful person, but it made people love him so much. I'm fine. Don't say you're fine. It was obvious that I couldn't use my abilities not long ago. Let me see your face. Your Majesty, this is a public place. Hua Zheng wanted to stop him, but Hua Chu had already raised his hand and took off the cold white mask regardless. The face under the mask was not cold at all. The crystal clear skin showed an abnormal blush due to excessive use of the ability. It was a beautiful face that was enough to make people fall in love with it. It was also full of complex emotions that humans should have: worry, regret, fear and strong love. The tears overflowing in the red pupils could make anyone intoxicated. Wow! The students in the audience sighed together after realizing the kiss between the princess and the female sentinel. Hua Zhu subconsciously looked at her daughter and then, as if infected by the affectionate kiss, turned her head and kissed Hua Zheng. This enthusiasm spread immediately, faster than the overwhelming thrust just now. The students who still didn't know they had just survived screamed and cheered loudly, and some even hugged each other in public and kissed passionately. And all of this was faithfully recorded by the camera. Big or small. No, princess, I can do it myself. Baijin was hospitalized again due to injuries, and Hua Mu once again took on the responsibility of taking care of her. You should call me Miss, or Mu Mu is also fine, princess. I've heard enough. Hua Mu avoided her hand, and fed her the porridge again. Breadfruit porridge, but it's an upgraded version that I've improved repeatedly, and made it super delicious. Baizhen no longer refused, and drank the porridge obediently. How is it? Very delicious. Hua Mu immediately smiled, just like 6 years ago, like a young girl who had just come of age. How long had it been since she saw such a carefree smile on the face of the young lady? The memory of the past 6 months was like a dream, and the 5 years of sleep were just a blink of an eye. But what a painful memory it was for the young lady. I didn't expect you to remember it this way. I thought I had to rely on my love to influence you. Hua Mu pretended to be relaxed, but now that Hattie had returned, Baizhen knew that she had already made plans that she would never recover her memory. I'm sorry. Besides sorry, what else can she say? Of course. And similarly, Hua Mu can immediately understand her thoughts. This is the sentinel and guide after they are combined. A true soul-to-soul partner who understands each other. What else can be said? No need to say anything more. Everything is enough. Luna, who was licked enough in the corner of the ward, seemed to feel the master's intentions, pushed Hattie's mouth open with her head, and came in front of the two with a few jumps. Although the spirits can comfort each other in the picture, they both let them out in tacit understanding, letting the two spirits with reduced size play freely. Not only have they not seen each other for a long time, they haven't seen each other for a long time either. Luna. Hua Mu freed one hand to hug the unicorn's neck. Luna rubbed her face, while lowering her head to lick Baizhen's cheek happily. Although it was only a virtual sense, the wet and slippery touch of the tongue was still clearly conveyed. Luna. Baizhen hugged its head with a smile, showing a cheerful look after a long time. Hattie, who was abandoned and neglected, followed unwillingly, and lay on the unicorn's back to share the spoils. Wow, shut up. Hattie! The giant wolf's tongue is different from that of the unicorn. It felt like being scratched by barbs, causing Hua Mu to scream repeatedly. Baizhen, think of a way. Baizhen rarely showed some childishness. Not only did he not stop Hattie, but he stood up and hugged Luna and Hua Mu in his arms. This is the completeness of them, after crossing the deserted island of reality and soul. They are complete again. Miss. Hua Mu felt Baizhen's joy and pain, hugging her tightly, choking. I didn't cry, why are you crying? Miss. No need to explain too much. They understand each other's care for themselves very well. To avoid the other party's self-blame, they suppress their sadness, and cry for her because they understand the other party's intentions. 1,000 words cannot be more direct and sincere than a kiss. All they need to do is to follow their inner desires. Baizhen. Just as the two were about to kiss, a voice full of vitality fell into the ward like thunder along with the sound of the door opening. Mom. Mom. I saw you and Aunt kissing. Hua Baiwang rushed towards the two like a wild little wolf dog, and squeezed himself in the middle without paying attention to the atmosphere. Mom. Hua Mu had a black face, and Baizhen looked at him with a helpless expression. Hua Baiwang hugged the two of them with one arm each, and said with a bright smile, I want to kiss too. Luna tilted her head, as if she was curious about the new kid, and Hattie also looked at him with a look of studying. But the unicorn quickly gave up thinking, and acted on instinct, sticking out his tongue and licking her hard. Scared? Hua Baiwang, who should not feel anything, touched the cheek that Luna had licked strangely, and looked around in confusion. Ah! Hua Mu finally knew who this little thing looked like. Isn't it exactly the same as her stupid spiritual body? Hattie soon joined Luna's licking Hua Baiwang until she screamed. Mom! 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 Who is touching me? It is impossible for an unawakened person to feel the existence of a spiritual body. But Hua Baiwang actually felt the spiritual bodies of the two. Baizhen was a little surprised. Hua Mu shook her head at her, and held her daughter tightly in the middle. It's the spirits of the mothers licking you. It seems they like you very much. Hua Baiwang was wrapped in a soft embrace, and said in a muffled voice, Moms? Should I say that my daughter can grasp the key points? Hua Mu rubbed her hair and smiled. Yes. You can't call Baizhen auntie in the future. You have to call her mother. Baizhen was a little embarrassed, but more of a joy. Yes. It's not just them and Hattie. Luna. Now they also have Bai Huang, the little baby. Although the loss in the past is a pity, fortunately there is still a chance to make up for it now. Chapter 197. One pillow for one person. Except for the hardship suffered by Count Harris, the accidental exposure of the princess, and the queen's lover caused heated discussions among the people, the visit of Heliopolis ended successfully. The two countries not only reached a consensus on anti-terrorism, but also received strong support from the consortium behind Count Harris, showing great determination to completely defeat the Origin Church. After Count Harris endured this ordeal, it is said that he changed his frivolous style after returning home, joined the tower at the old age of 25, and began the hell-level hard training. Considering his support for the Anti-Terrorism Alliance, his personal safety is doomed to be greatly threatened. It can be seen that he has made a great determination. Before returning to China, Beinu visited Beijing with Liang Jinshin. The three of them are old friends. Many things are tacitly understood. Everything is unspoken. Beijing was discharged from the hospital after only 2 days of hospitalization. Compared with the treatment in the hospital, Hua Mu's comfort is obviously more useful. Her Royal Highness ignored the gossip that was widely spread outside and took the sentry to the villa in the suburbs. They had a love exchange for 3 days and 3 nights on the love boat. The Queen Goddess returned refreshed. The gossip carnival of the whole nation has not ended yet. Let's not talk about the movement of the Parliament for now. The meeting application letters of the royal family have already filled the desks of the Queen and the Princess. Hua Mu looked overwhelmed. She originally wanted to discuss it with her mother, but she didn't expect that the two of them were even more ruthless than herself, and have not left the room until now. Isn't this too abominable? When she and Beijing got together, the situation was not only embarrassing, but also that they didn't have a long time of warmth at all. They left a mess and fought for 7 days and 7 nights. The princess and the queen were both absent from work. At least the government was still functioning normally under the leadership of the prime minister. If there was something difficult to decide, I would send an email to the queen, and she would usually get a reply. Hua Mu quickly dealt with the accumulated official business, while thinking angrily, I must take a very, very long vacation after this. Hua Mu worked hard, and Beijing was not relaxed either. After she regained her sentinel ability, she still faced a very embarrassing situation. The Medusa curse that Du Minjun had cast was back. With the media's pursuit and interception, she could only hide in the palace now, and wait until the tower develops a shielding method. Hua Mu simply transferred her to the position of personal guard, and only held the title of consultant in the response department. However, the princess was too busy to leave the office, so there was naturally nothing to protect, and Beijing's responsibility completely became taking care of the baby. The sentinel was very motivated to this task at the beginning because she missed her daughter's important 5-year growth period. But she found out in just 2 days that taking care of Hua Bai Wang was not a task that ordinary people, including S-level sentinels, could handle. This daughter is not only energetic, but also full of wonderful ideas. Although she cannot wear down a sentinel's body, she can wear down a sentinel's spirit. This child seems to be born with a spirit of adventure, and she seems to have no idea what fear is. She always looks for difficult challenges. As long as Baishan is distracted, she will come up with new tricks. Climbing trees and swimming are all easy. Once, she took out her hummingbird flying plane and flew it in the sky for more than 10 minutes, which was really scary. In the end, Hua Mu came forward to solve the problem. She assigned her a lot of homework, coerced her, persuaded her with money, moved her with emotion, explained her with reason, and mobilized Hua Mo, and finally made Hua Bai Wang behave herself. The daughter was scolded, and Baishan inevitably learned a lesson. After all, Hua Bai Wang had never been so unscrupulous before. Baishan's indulgence and doting were the culprits. The sentry humbly admitted his mistakes, and sold his labor to get a lighter sentence. The disturbances in the outside world can be turned a blind eye, but the troubles in the heart are not so easy to let go. Baishan wants to talk to Bai Qin. She and this sister should have been the closest people, but they were separated from each other due to a series of reasons. When they met many years later, they not only met with weapons, but also almost separated forever. She clearly had so many things to say to Bai Qin, but she didn't know where to start. But hesitation could not bring about changes. One of the most important things Hua Mu taught Baishan was to learn to communicate with the person he loved. After Baishan recovered, Bai Qin took the initiative to resign from his job as a personal bodyguard. It happened that something happened in Catherine's family, and he had to go back to the Patent Republic to deal with it. Hua Mu simply sent her to protect Catherine and Hua Man, which was also a way to show his love for his friend. Baishan contacted her after learning the news, although he hoped to talk face to face. Considering the impact of his curse on the sentinels, he could only use this method in the end. The conversation was a bit awkward at the beginning. But after Baijin said, "Chin Chin," and Bai Chin burst into tears, the conversation began to be full of warmth. "Chin Chin, I didn't take good care of you. Otherwise you wouldn't have encountered those things." Baijin's guilt towards Bai Chin could not be explained in 1 or 2 sentences. Although she missed her sister, she didn't dare to go back to see her because of her identity. "No, it's not my sister's fault. Bai Chin has been suffering because of what happened in the past. I was not strong enough to be bewitched by others. What else can a 12-year-old child do?" In the end, it was her lack of concern for her sister that led to such a tragedy. If she could be more forceful in getting information about Bai Chin, if she was not afraid to face the past, perhaps the two of them would not have wasted so much time. "Okay, let's not talk about this. I heard that you will go to the Patent Republic soon. Have you arranged everything? Since it is Bai Chin's own choice, Baijin will not stop it even if it is dangerous. Keep in touch if you have time. No matter what happens, don't handle it alone. Chin Chin, I know you have grown strong enough now. You can not only take care of yourself, but also protect the important people. But you have to remember, I am your sister. No matter what happens, I will stand by your side." Baijin swore in his heart 6 years ago that he would never make the same mistake again and would protect his family at all costs. I know Sister Jin. Because the gap was too long and neither of them was good at speaking, the contact did not last long. The younger sister was traveling far away. As an elder sister, she was naturally worried. Hua Mu had just finished her work. The queen also walked out of the room with the leader. Hua Mu took the initiative to run away with her lover, daughter, younger sister and pets. After working so hard for so many years, Hua Mu was determined to have a sweet and long-waiting vacation this time, leaving the mess of public relations outside to the two mothers. The destination of the trip was Hua Mu's private island near Nice. Although they could no longer return to the Frankenstein base, it also carried the memories of the two. Moreover, this place is very close to the Patent Republic. If things don't go well after Catherine returns, the two can provide nearby support. Helena has been living near the island since she found the tribe. She has bred 2 offspring with her spouse. Hua Mu will bring Hua Bai Wang and the reserve food to see it every year. Bai Wang, don't run on the railing. Hua Mu was scared to death by her daughter chasing the reserve food on the railing. Baijin, take care of your daughter. Baijin just took Hua Mo to the toilet. When he came out, he saw Hua Bai Wang jumping nimbly on the railing. Bai Huang! Baijin quickly stuffed Hua Mo into Hua Mu's arms and rushed over to pick up Hua Bai Huang. After the transformation, the little white flower breaker has become a more reliable ship with excellent performance. Hua Mu did not bring any followers with him and decided to leisurely tour the island with Baijin. But this daughter is really troublesome. She only lowered her head to look for eggs for 3 seconds when making lunch, and she was already in the sky. After Baijin came back, this little guy was more active than before, and when he went out to travel, he was like a leopard cat released from a cage. Baijin grabbed Hua Bai Wang and spanked her hard a few times, making her scream. Wow wow. Didn't you say you can't do anything dangerous? Why did you run to the railing? What if you fall into the sea? Hua Bai Wang said with tears in his eyes. But obviously, the grain storage is also playing. Baijin glared at the grain storage, who was lying on the deck leisurely licking his paws, looking like it had nothing to do with him. It's a cat, unlike you, it won't fall down. Hua Bai Wang was even more puzzled. Why is it different? I won't fall down either. In her opinion, there is no difference between the railing and the ground. Baijin found that he couldn't make sense, and couldn't help looking at her with a headache. The growth rate and physical fitness of her daughter can no longer be regarded as a 6-year-old child. Perhaps they should consider sending her to the tower as soon as possible. Hua Mu carried Hua Mo to Hua Bai Wang and slapped her but twice. Let's not talk about whether what you did was dangerous. But Mom told you not to run around. Right? You promised well. But you didn't keep your promise. Shouldn't you be beaten? This made sense. Hua Bai Wang was convinced and bowed his head to admit his mistake. I forgot. Mom, I was wrong. Rather than saying that this daughter is disobedient, it is better to say that her mind goes blank when she is excited and acts entirely on instinct. Baijin sighed and said, Miss, you still have a way. Hua Mu was very pleased with herself. That's right. I have been a parent for more than 5 years longer than you. Baijin loved her little pride, and couldn't help but look at her with a bit of infatuation. Hua Mu blushed when she looked at her. and stuffed Hua Mo into Bai Zhen's arms. I'm going to cook. You look after them. Bai Huang, you have to take good care of Mo. Understand? Hua Bai Huang may not remember other things, but he is very responsible for taking care of Hua Mo. Okay. Yes. Hua Mu looked at the two very similar faces, one big and one small, and couldn't help but feel a warm current in his heart. Happiness may be such a simple thing. Chapter 198. The two of them covered themselves with a blanket. Bai Qin took the initiative to resign to Hua Mu after the attack. Now that her sister has completely returned, the princess no longer needs her protection. When she learned that her sister had resurrected from the dead, besides being happy and joyful, she was also worried and uneasy. There were not many childhood memories that could be recalled. The scenes that appeared repeatedly were the scenes of the two fighting to the death, and the scene of her sister being sealed in a crystal coffin. Bai Qin still cannot accept that he once wanted to kill Bai Zhen, and he cannot face himself being controlled by Hua Su. She had always considered herself an accomplice in Bai Zhen's death, and had never been at peace in the past 6 years. After finishing her job as the princess's personal guard, Bai Qin returned to the tower to wait for the assignment of a new task. She had submitted an application before, hoping to do the same job as Senior Liang and the Sentinel Guides, who had been oppressed by Hua Su. Since she no longer needed to protect His Highness, she had to atone for her sins in this way. As for the concerns in her heart, she was not shameless enough to use that ridiculous night as a bargaining chip to get close to the two ladies. She loves Miss Man, but cannot refuse Miss Catherine. Just like her ambiguous life, she is also indecisive in her feelings. She is not worthy of any of the ladies, and she is definitely not the one who can bring them happiness. Leaving is her best choice. She only hopes that the two ladies will just treat her as a pastime and not feel sad for her. Bai Qin waited for a week, and finally received the task personally issued by the princess. Bai Qin will be assigned as Catherine's personal bodyguard for a 3-month mission. The destination is the Republic of Payton, and he will leave in a week. Bai Qin never expected such a task, and immediately submitted an adjustment application to the princess when he took up the post. Although Catherine had a considerable career in the Shang dynasty and enjoyed an honorary title, her residence was not ostentatious. Just a duplex apartment with a fairly spacious area. Bai Qi arrived at the door of the apartment with her luggage, but was unable to press the doorbell. She had thought about not having any involvement with any lady, but now she had to live under the same roof with Miss Catherine, which really made her feel uneasy. Just as she was hesitating, the door opened and an unexpected person appeared in front of Bai Qin. Man, Miss Man, Hua Man blushed and dared not look at her, and only said softly, I know. Come in. Catherine is waiting inside. Bai Qin thought of that night, and felt dizzy and weak, and walked into the room in a daze. Catherine was only wearing pajamas, lazily leaning on the sofa watching a movie. Compared with her usual image, she undoubtedly looked a little unkempt at this moment. In sharp contrast to her casual attire were her furrowed brows and stern expression, as if she had some unresolved worries. Seeing her like this, Bai Qin could not bring himself to say the rejection he had been preparing for all this time. Miss Catherine. Catherine glanced at her lightly, and said with a bit of fatigue, You are here. Sit down. Bai Qin had never seen the confident and cheerful Catherine with such an expression, and had long forgotten his purpose. He asked anxiously, What's wrong with you? You look so bad. Are you feeling unwell? Catherine shook her head and forced a smile. I'm fine. But I didn't expect Mumu to send you here. This mission is very dangerous. If you want to refuse, I will help you talk to Mumu. Hearing the word dangerous, those long-forgotten words of rejection were thrown out of the window. Danger? Miss Catherine, are you in danger? What happened? Is someone trying to harm you? It was rare for Hua Man to see Bai Qin, who was not good at speaking, ask so many questions in one breath, which showed that he was really anxious. Catherine's grandfather was persecuted in the country, and the government wanted Catherine to return home. Mumu was afraid that she would also be detained, and said that a strong and reliable sentinel would be sent to protect us. You? Hua Man nodded. I want to go with Catherine. As a relative of the royal family of the Shang Dynasty Empire, the Payton Republic will also be concerned. Man, you don't have to be like this. I don't want to see you get into trouble. And I also told Mumu that there is no need for guards. Sending sentinels will make Shangchao very difficult. I don't want your political stance to be affected by personal feelings. How can that be? Bai Qin subconsciously objected. Even if she was in a state of confusion and couldn't sort out her feelings, she was determined not to let anything happen to Catherine or Hua Manman. Miss Catherine, I will protect you. Even if I am not a sentinel of the Shumchao Empire, I will protect you. If you are worried about the Empire's stance, I will resign to His Highness now. Please let me go back with you. Bai Qin couldn't interfere with Catherine's decision, so he couldn't tell her not to go back. But protecting others has always been her job. If it is for Miss Catherine, she is willing to do her best to protect her. Hua Manman also said, I will not let you go back alone. You have always helped me in the past. This time it is my turn. If Sheng Chao is really involved, I will sever ties with my family, and will not make it difficult for my father and the queen. Manman. Miss Manman. Bai Qin was extremely shocked by the friendship between the two. From the first time they met, she envied and admired the friendship between the two ladies. They were flowers of such different styles, but they complemented each other when they bloomed together. Bai Qin had no friends. When she realized what was happening, she realized that her eyes had been following the two figures since some time ago. But she didn't want to be the destroyer of this friendship. When she knew that she might become a grudge between the two, she felt extremely regretful and uneasy. She had never expected to gain the favor of even one lady. As long as she could watch them from a distance, she would be satisfied. But now, they needed her. Even if her power was insignificant, she would definitely do her best for the two of them. Hua Manman clapped her hands. Okay. Catherine, it's decided. I always listened to you before, but you have to listen to me this time. Does Bai Qin think so too? Bai Qin nodded vigorously. Miss Catherine, I will protect you, and Miss Manman. Catherine couldn't help laughing at the two people's firm and strong appearance. You two are really cute. But tears also slid down her eyes at the same time. Hua Manman mustered up the courage to hold Bai Qin's hand, let her hug Catherine with her. Although Bai Qin was a little shy and nervous, she felt that she should not destroy such a harmonious and beautiful atmosphere. And she opened her arms calmly. Catherine could no longer suppress her feelings, and hugged the two of them tightly. Thank you. Manman. Bai Qin. Thank you. Why should we say thank you to each other? Bai Qin's face turned red, and she didn't know how to respond. When she heard Hua Manman's words, she hurriedly nodded. Catherine smiled and nodded her forehead. Manman and I are good sisters, good girlfriends, and good childhood friends. Why are you nodding and interfering? Bai Qin was immediately confused, and stuttered for a long time without uttering a word. Hua Manman was at a loss for words and said, Why did you finally recover your spirit and start bullying her? Why did you bully her? You feel bad after hearing a few words from her. What will happen in the future? How can I feel bad? Let alone Hua Manman. Even if there were 5 Hua Manmans and Bai Qin, they couldn't beat Catherine. Bai Qin wisely chose to keep his mouth shut, and just held the two of them with his strength without any slack. Catherine snorted. She is said to be honest, but I think she is quite smart. Just spare her.